Okay, we're live. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another debate. My third debate that I've had right here today. We're going to talk about the greatest WWE feuds of all time. I have two special guests with me, like usual. One of the guests has been on here every time, actually, and then the other one's new. So I'm going to let Brian introduce himself first since he's new to the channel, and Conrad, you go ahead and introduce your channel.
Yo, what's going on? This is Brian Williams, chilling with my homies on this debate show. Looking forward to it. I'm actually at work right now. For those that don't know, I'm one of the game designers on the WWE video game franchise, and I came in because the internet's better at the office than it is at the pad. But I'm really looking forward to get in on this debate. I've got what I think is a pretty healthy list of rivalries and feuds. So hopefully I can get at least maybe 50% of this on the list.
We'll have to wait and see. All right, Conrad.
You guys know me. I've been on this every single time. I am the host of Everything Pro Wrestling. My name is Conrad Cushman. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. You guys can check out my YouTube channel. Just type in Everything Pro Wrestling and subscribe. We're over the 300 subscriber mark. So thank you, everybody. Now on to the road to 500. And also, I'm on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, wherever you listen to podcasts. And I'm on Podbean now, so make sure that you guys look for me on there. But let's talk about this debate. I'm here to talk about some wrestling, baby.
Yes, sir.
All right, so for those who've been watching, we've done two debates so far. We've done top 10 greatest superstars of all time, and we've done top 10 WrestleMania matches. Today, we're talking about the top 10 greatest feuds of all time. We're just going to stick to, we were talking about if we want to go outside of WWE and everything. So we're going to stick to WWE, maybe WCW, ECW, maybe a little NWA in there too. So maybe strictly those, because some people who watch it might not know, some of the feuds that we might have written down. So let's get right into it. So first one I want to talk about Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan. Do you guys think this is top 10 greatest rivalries of all time, or what are your thoughts on this one? Whoever wants to go first, doesn't matter.
Go ahead, Brian.
Wow. I guess. Yeah. I'll be honest. I didn't even think of that one. Mostly because I just have an aversion to all things Hulk Hogan. But yeah, when you bring that up, I mean, that was a pretty monumentous, rivalry, especially at that time. And it leading up to their match at WrestleMania 3. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I just from the historical perspective of it, and with what it means and what it meant, and what it currently means to the company, to WWE now. I think that's probably a feud that you would have to put on a list. And also, I give a lot of credit for it being a simple feud. They just kept things very simple. They didn't feel the need to throw in a whole bunch of curveballs like WWE is doing right now with some of their top feuds. So I think for that alone, it should be worth consideration. They knew what they had, and they basically just let the two personalities just kind of go at it. So yeah, I mean, if it's going to go on the list, I've got no problem with that. I mean, I wouldn't put it in my top 3 personally, but I think it's definitely deserving of being on a top 10 feuds of all time, especially WWE. So yeah, I'm not going to fight you too much on that one.
All right. I'm so in the middle on this one. You started off with I thought this was going to be a potential layup that you were going to come with first. This is tough. I'm going to put this in the maybe pile for me because Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant was a really great feud. And it's always the first thing you see when you're watching WWF programming. You see that body slam or the leg drop or Heenan grabbing Andre's head as it lays against the bottom rope because he's in shock that he got slammed. But, dude, it's so tough for this one. It's got to be maybe because it led to the Mega Powers and DiBiase got involved. Like the storyline used to just kind of like continue all the way over, and it continued into like 89 when Hogan and Savage, that whole feud just went all the way over and meshed into so many things. Put in the maybe. I gotta rethink about it. I don't know. You guys
really?
Well, I'm outnumbered, but
I thought this was a layup actually. But as soon as he mentioned it, because I didn't think about it, but like I said, I don't like Hogan. But I mean, you even said, Conrad, like this is in the opening package of every WWE piece of programming. Like this was an iconic rivalry.
Yeah,
You
yeah, you
know,
have to
and
think about it. This is back in the '80s. So like back in the day, this was everything in wrestling at the time. You know what I mean? And I wasn't around then, so maybe y'all can speak on it then because
Well,
I wasn't. I don't know what exactly. I don't know like the feeling people got from that. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't around then.
well, I mean, I wasn't all that much older, but I will say this was a match. I mean, what was it 1987? I mean, this WrestleMania 3 was built and sold around this feud. And, you know, it could be argued that although this was the third WrestleMania, like this was the one, this, you know, main event in particular of Hogan versus Andre is what cemented WrestleMania as the brand that it currently is. Like, I think the first one, obviously, a success. The second one, okay, people still maybe, you know, there's some trepidation about whether this thing can go long term. But I think because of the work and of this feud and everything culminating at WrestleMania 3 between Hogan and Andre, I mean, that launched WrestleMania into being that yearly, just global, you know, sports entertainment extravaganza. And I think a lot of it has to do with this feud. And again, that's just me looking at it, you know, dispassionately because, you know, I mean, the match itself, quality-wise, wasn't anything special, you know, but that is a testament to the personalities where it's like nobody cared about the work rate. They just wanted to see Hogan victorious in the end, the good guy, you know, vanquishing his foe. And like I said, WWE told the story in a pretty, you know, splendid way, you know. So I don't know. Yeah, that's all I got to say. I guess, you know, I'll pass it back to you, Malik.
Conrad, you got something to say? Later, you got something to say?
Yes, dude. Okay, here's the problem. So when I see this, I think of like job interviews. So you know how people come in. I don't know if you guys have been on like an interview board panel or whatever, but when I first did one, someone called me in and they were like, listen, I want to talk to you before you do this. Don't make the mistake of selling the first person too short or giving them too high of praise. And that's how I feel. You threw this one out there right away. And I just feel that there are going to be some other ones that could get left off if we put it on the list right away. That's the only thing I'm saying, because there's so many good ones like that I have even written down.
I mean, that's fair enough.
All right, so we can put it in the maybes.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
We put it in the maybes. I mean, obviously, it did a lot for wrestling back in the day. You know what I mean? Like you said, the match quality wasn't great, but I don't think anybody cared at that time. You know what I mean? Yeah, people just wanted to see Hulk Hogan win. So I think the story they told was really good. You know, we all remember the iconic moment when he ripped the cross off his chest and everything. It started everything. I think I'm kind of with Kai right now. Now that you mentioned that, you know, there's a lot of great feuds out there. So I mean, I think this had to be in the maybes. You know,
you putting your own pick in the maybe?
I convinced.
Yeah, we might have to put it.
Wow! Wow!
He convinced me because there's a lot of other great feuds we haven't talked about yet. So I mean, we have to come back to that one. So I mean, obviously it did a lot for wrestling. I'm not disputing that what it did for wrestling. You know what I mean? Obviously. Just imagine if Hulk Hogan and Andre Giant never happened at WrestleMania 3. What would WrestleMania even be nowadays? You know what I mean? So it's like, at that time, that was the biggest WrestleMania main event in history at that time. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think we come back to that one.
Let's put in the maybe. I mean, I would be shocked if it doesn't end somewhere up on this list, though. But yeah, for now, I'm cool. I'm cool with being in the maybe.
So what about Austin versus McMahon? Do you guys think that's top 10 rivalries of all time, or what do you guys think about that one?
Oh hell yeah! Oh hell yeah! No, that's on there. That was the first one that I have written down is Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon.
I disagree 100%.
Oh, hold on then. Let me get into this before he gets to talk.
Oh yeah,
right now.
No, but actually,
well, first of all, it's gonna be on the list because it's unanimous on my list. So you know, so
yeah.
What do you?
No. I'm messing around. I mean, of course, this has to go on the list. Of course, you know, like this is about as much of a slam dunk or a layup as there is in any list involving a top 10 feuds, rivalries in wrestling, WWE or otherwise. I mean, this needs to be on the list for just, I mean, a million reasons. There's a reason why this needs to be on the list. One, the fact that this is the feud that kind of that catapulted the WWE past WCW and the ratings during the whole Monday Night Wars. And I mean, and created the whole Mr. McMahon character that's still on television today. I mean, unfortunately, but But back then, this was like a revelation to see the owner of the company going out on national television and just, being that ultimate heel against the ultimate babyface at the time in Austin. Like the chemistry they had was through the fucking charts. I'm sorry for cursing, but through the charts. So yeah, I'm not gonna poo-poo on this one.
If you think about this, I mean, Austin is the guy that, if anybody ever had a boss out there that they hate so much, you just vicariously live through Stone Cold when he's just beating up Vince McMahon because you hate that. He's the guy, he's the boss. He just, obviously, storylines, he just ruined this guy's life and he's trying to prevent him from succeeding and everything. And he's doing all the healer stuff. This, no question to me, has to be top 10. It's definitely on my list. I was a little surprised when you said no at first. I'm glad you were kidding because I don't know. I want to see your reasons on that one, but I think it's no question. It's on the list, so it's unanimous.
It's gotta be.
Man, dude, I just thought about when he first stunned Vince McMahon, dude. Now this goes so far back. I have my little action figures, man. I remember that. I was like, dude, I got to recreate this with Vince with the Raw jacket on. He ate that stunner horribly too. Like it was the worst stunner in history. But just love it, man. Then he's all in his face and gets arrested. Good stuff.
Yeah, there's so many classic moments that were born out of this feud. And like for me, so I didn't grow up a wrestling fan. I didn't get into wrestling until my first year in college. So that was like 97. So I got in right when The Rock and Stone Cold were both like really starting to do their thing. So just for personal reasons, outside of how good it is, like I started my wrestling fandom watching this feud, and with the expectation that, wow, man, it's gonna be everything moving forward is gonna be just like this. And of course, we all knew that wouldn't go last. But no, this was a feud that got me into the WWF at the time proper. I mean, I was never into it as a kid. The Hogans never did it for me. I thought it was cheesy. But as soon as the Attitude Era rolled around, and and I'm learning about WCW and this war, and Vince and Austin, I'm like, dude, I am hooked, man. Like this is amazing. Count me in. And from then on, it was off to the races.
Yeah. So this is no question unanimous. Let's talk about another one. What do you guys think about Shawn versus Bret? Is that Shawn versus Bret top 10 rivalry of all time? Because we know there's some real bad blood in there between Shawn and Bret. So I mean, what do you guys thoughts on that one?
Yo, I already told you guys the story last week. Thank God I don't think my brother listened to it. Yeah, he says it's in his queue, but he hasn't listened to the video yet. But in my household, Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels meant everything because there's two kinds of people in this world. I think Marcus Stevenson said it once. Brian knows who he is.
Marcus, yeah.
He said there are people who like Bret Hart and there are people who like Shawn Michaels. And I'm a person who likes Shawn Michaels. And my brother is the biggest Bret the Hitman Hart fan. So this is a great rivalry. From WrestleMania 12 to getting that action figure thrown in my face to my brother was like, what happened to Bret Hart? And why did they just ring the bell on my man like that? And he never understood it as a kid. Like he was like, why did this just happen? Bret Hart's one of the greatest heroes. And I'm like, he's going to WCW, bro. You got to get that belt off of him. He's done. I think it's a great rivalry. Personal, even outside of the ring, fans were clicking dirt sheets to read about this. I think it's a great rivalry. You can even go back to the Hart Foundation versus the Rockers and the tag title switch that never happened.
Yeah. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah. Of course, yeah, this is, the Shawn versus Bret thing is, the stuff of legend. The real behind the scenes stuff as well as, the scripted feud. The one thing that kind of puts this in the maybe for me is a lot of, I mean, not a lot, because that's too hyperbolic. But there is an element of what makes this feud so kind of special, as it were, is because of all the real life backstage stuff that was going on that, everybody, that kind of came to light. And then, you add the screw job in Montreal to the whole mix, something that, wasn't part of the script, as it were, that kind of just gave more fuel to this feud. But I kind of look at that where it's like it almost kind of disqualified itself because there's a lot of what makes this that made this feud so much of it is dependent on the real life animosity that was going on between, these two men, and then the contract situation between Brett and McMahon. So I don't know. Like I mean, and of course the matches were good. I mean, Sean and Brett. I mean, Conrad, you said you're either a Sean guy or a Brett guy. I'm gonna be that boring individual and say I liked them both. I really did. But I mean, yeah, that'd be my only thing for not including this, at least right now. I mean, I'm sure I'll probably get outnumbered, but because I don't know, I just think there's too much real life that seeped into this that kind of gave this a little more added juice than it would have had otherwise if it was just a completely booked, scripted storyline that had a beginning, middle, and end. And this really didn't have an end to it. I mean, I guess it did once they, kind of made amends years later. But that's where I'm coming from. Was that?
That was just to stop TNA.
Yeah, no, that's true.
To put a damper on these sunny days for what we're talking about, the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, though, I feel like this was the first feud that was like internet driven in a way, because all those dirt sheets knew. When I was a kid, I didn't know what the sunny day stuff they were talking about. Like, Bret got mad about that. I'm like, what are you talking about? I think this is the first time wrestlers started taking themselves too seriously, like to the point of Bret's like, well, everybody knows. Well, you're probably doing something you're not supposed to do if you have that much guilt that you're like, Sean, why did you say that on TV? And Sean's just a jerk. So why would he do something like that? And trust me, I love Bret the Hitman Hart just as much as anybody else. I could do a top 10 countdown of Bret the Hitman Hart matches that I love. But I always sided with Sean more because that's just my guy, which wrestling fans don't do anymore because they flip-flop so much. But I think this is the catalyst for wrestling today. Like the Ronda Rousey thing. And I told Malik, I'll talk to him offline about this, but that Ronda Rousey thing is driven from stuff like this match, this feud.
That is true. That is true. I can't discount that.
So, Conrad, you said yes for this, right?
I said it's on mine.
What do you think, Brian? Is it a maybe for you or?
No, let's throw it in. Because I mean, this, yeah. I mean, it's got to go in. I was just trying to, be that contrarian, but yeah, this has to go on the list. I mean, it was okay. It's kind of hard for it not to be when they've got like they produced multiple like box sets about this rivalry. It's like, yeah, this thing meant a lot.
They still talk about it to this day.
Yeah.
Was the Montreal Screwjob a work or what?
Everything.
Was that a shoot or was that a work?
Somebody commented and said everything college basketball. That's kind of weird. Said they think Bret Hart's overrated. Said Bret Hart's overrated.
Whoa. Wait a minute. Who? Oh, Peyton said that? Peyton, you better knock it off. You leave Bret Hart alone. All right? I just did a show with everything college basketball, too. Go Tar Heels today?
I think Bret Hart is rated exactly where he needs to be. He's definitely not overrated. If anything, he's underrated. I mean, Bret Hart, he's amazing, man. I would prescribe maybe a couple more Bret Hart matches in your life for for saying that comment.
Yeah. All right. So what about let's move out of the WWE territory. What about Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes? What do you think about that rivalry?
Well, I know, Conrad, you got that on your list, right?
I do. I have it on my list, and I even have 4 Horsemen in parentheses because that's a little bit tough too, because the Horsemen were so tied to the Dusty Rhodes feud. And Ric Flair and Dusty, if you don't know, they have like this love-hate relationship. If you're listening to Conrad Thompson, the second best Conrad in podcasting, when he talks about some of these old feuds going back to the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and that's his father-in-law, and he's sitting there talking with like Eric Bischoff or Tony Schiavone, and how did they feel during this time? It's really quite a classic feud that they always had this one-upsmanship, whether it was in the ring, who could have the better match or who could cut the better promo tonight. And I just felt that whether Arn Anderson was involved, Tully Blanchard, whoever the people were in the Horsemen at the time, and Dusty had the Road Warriors, Sting, it was always for a good feud. I think they had some classic matches that you can't forget. And this is one of those ones that I have lower on my ones that I'm like, well, maybe this could be on there, maybe it's not. I think it deserves at least a consideration for it, if you will.
Yeah, it's definitely worthy of consideration. I mean, I didn't see. I didn't, I was young when this feud was going on, and it was in the NWA. I don't even know if I got that when I was a kid, but I've seen stuff, from it, DVDs and everything. I mean, I've learned and I've educated myself about this feud, and you mentioned the Four Horsemen and all that, and it's definitely this is something that definitely needs to be, mentioned for consideration, or whether it just becomes a maybe and gets on the list proper. Uh, but I think this feud, like especially the time that it was occurring. I mean, honestly, all you had to do was look. You could turn the volume off. Look at the crowd, and you see how emotionally invested the crowd was at that time into what was going on between these two guys. I mean, that's something that you just don't see nowadays. But the fans, the crowd, they bought into everything that was going on between Flair and Dusty. They wanted Dusty to whoop that ass. That arrogant, Flair and his cronies and everything. It was like the people got whipped up in such a frenzy that I mean, like I said, I mean, it's rare that you see people that emotionally invested in a storyline these days. So just the strength of the storytelling, I think it merits consideration.
And another reason why I put the Four Horsemen in parentheses, Brian, when you think about the Four Horsemen, they taught factions how to be factions. Like they were the first ones when they rolled up on Dusty Rhodes when he got out that car. And I won't ruin it for you guys. Go back and look at that part. But the Horsemen taught you how to be bad guys that you hated. Ric Flair had stuff when I used to like go back and watch all these tapes, because I had to go back and do history on this too and study it. And I'm like, dude, Ric Flair was someone you just hated. I'm like, where did this dude get this watch from? And where does he have all the money to get all this stuff? And you're just like jealous of him a little bit, like, man, I hate this dude. And he's just sitting out there telling everybody why he's better than them, and you'll never be able to touch me. He's throwing shoes in the crowd. These shoes are Armani. Just crazy.
Yeah, and it was a total contrast in characters too, because like you said, you've got the arrogant, rich Ric Flair surrounded by his homies, and the Horsemen, and then you juxtapose that with Dusty Rhodes, who, like Austin, was just that everyman, that blue collar, just buckling up, putting on my bootstraps and just getting the job done. And that the contrast between their characters was so strong, it really just helped elevate. And then of course the promos. I mean, Jesus Christ! I mean, these are two of the best promo men ever in wrestling going at it. You know what I mean? It's like just the promo work alone that occurred in this feud. Okay, now that I'm okay, you know what? No, this needs to be on the list now. This needs, because you can just YouTube like just promos on of Flair going at Dusty going at Flair, and the stuff is so entertaining, and it gets you whipped up in a frenzy where you got to see these guys clash. And again, that's just that level of mic work. It's worthy of praise. So
is it on the list?
I think it needs to go on the list.
What about you, Conrad? Are you still iffy about it, or what?
I want to put it to the side only for the reason of there's so many good matches still to talk about.
Okay. Hey, it's your pick. I will follow your lead, brother. We can put it to the side for now.
I say we put it to the side. If Hogan and Andre can't be on, you gotta hold on. Let's pump the brakes.
Okay. What about another Ric Flair feud? Ric Flair's had a lot of good feuds. I'm probably not talking about a lot of his feuds. So what about Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat? Ric Flair said this was his favorite opponent he's ever wrestled, his best opponent. So what do you guys think about Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair?
Hold on. I got a question for you, Malik. You're the host. Have you seen any of these matches from 89, 94, any of them?
I've seen a couple. I probably haven't seen every single one, but I've seen a couple.
What about you, Brian?
I've seen one.
Which one did you see, though?
It was I don't even remember. Was it the 2 out of 3? I don't even remember, man. It was years ago.
Attires? Was Flair wearing the blue tights? Was it the Chi-Town Rumble one?
It wasn't that one. No. It wasn't that one.
I've seen that. Well,
yeah, I've read more about this feud than I've seen the matches, and I'll say that up front. I mean, I hear that this was, of course, a top rivalry. Yeah, I kind of feel like I don't have the knowledge enough to speak on this. But I do think that, in my estimation, Flair and Dusty was probably a bigger rivalry. I mean, because I think because in that feud you're dealing with stars of equal measure. All due respect to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. But yeah, I mean, I'll let you go.
I think so. When it comes to this feud, I think that Dusty and Ric Flair are the Hogan and Andre, and the Steamboat Flair is like Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat. Like, I would rather watch those two work in the ring, but if I had to get sold on should I buy tickets for this or not, I need to hear Dusty Rhodes speaking. But I have to give props. This is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's top work. I feel like if you don't bring up Macho Man, this one is right there neck and neck with it for how good it is. And as a kid, I can tell you this. I used to watch WCW Saturday night as a little kid, and I'll never forget watching Ric Flair versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Flair had on a red attire, and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat had on yellow with a green dragon on it. This is how I remember some of the matches as a kid. And it was so freaking good that I did not want this to end. I don't remember if it was a time limit draw or Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and him did the chicken wing pin where they like both pinned each other and both shoulders were down. There was controversy going in the Flambery, I think it was, whatever. Dude, this match was so good at the count. I was like, no, this can't go off. This can't go off. 5 more minutes, please. And it was like 10 o'clock at night, and they got me. Like, they were like, you're going to have to try and watch this on pay-per-view. Did I ever get to see it? No, not till later on. But I thought they had really good matches. Is it good enough to be on this list with the others? I think it's debatable, though.
Yeah.
In there, though, as a mention.
Okay. To me, this sounds like more of an honorable mention type thing. But, I mean, we'll see. I mean, like I said, there's still a lot of matches to go through.
Okay, so hold on. We have a mention in the comments that I'm gonna throw out there. Somebody, everything college basketball again. He said, if Cena versus Punk isn't in this, he's riding. So what do you guys think about John Cena and CM Punk, the rivalry?
It's on my list.
I have it written down as one to talk about.
Okay, so let's talk about it then. So, Ryan, you have it on your list. Why is it on your list?
This was like at the time that this occurred. I mean, like WWE. I mean, it was just for me personally. It was like in a lull as far as the storytelling and just the angles that were going on, and the pipe bomb, the thing that kickstarted this whole thing, like that promo, it just galvanized me as a fan into the WWE product, into particularly Raw, this storyline, in a way that I hadn't felt in a long time. And I wasn't the only one, because I mean, the kickoff to this rivalry, to this feud, it got everybody's attention. I mean, ESPN was covering this. I mean, this made mainstream. It got mainstream coverage outside of the WWE.
I feel like for people who hated John Cena, this was somebody that stepped up into like was saying the stuff that you wanted people to say but never said it. You know what I mean? He was saying the stuff that this is how I feel like this guy.
Yeah, no, exactly. Punk was, I mean, he said he was the voice to the voiceless. Like he was saying and bringing up all the things that a lot of, I don't even want to say it's just hardcore fans, but a lot of wrestling fans had felt about not only WWE, but about John Cena. And as foils, these guys it's similar to Ric Flair and Dusty. I mean, these guys couldn't have been more opposite to one another, And it was a rare feud where they were both technically, baby faces, good guys. But the exchange in the promos and the storytelling was so compelling between these guys, especially leading up to that Money in the Bank in 2011. That match, I still remember to this day. I was hanging out with my old coworker Dan. We're at his place before the networks. We're ordering this pay-per-view, and the anticipation and the excitement that I felt for that main event when they do that pan of the crowd and the crowd just going bananas before the first guy even comes out for their entrance. And when Punk does come out and his music hits, like that was like, to this day, I haven't felt this way about a main roster match.
Can I just pause you for a second? I just got goosebumps when you were just talking about it. Weird thing.
I specifically ordered that. I was still in school then, and I think we're like on summer break, or like we're just going to go back to school. And I specifically ordered that. I was like, I don't care. I'm ordering the pay-per-view. I have to see this match because I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, is he going to win?
Yeah.
Is he? Nobody knew if he was leaving with the belt. Is he like, what's gonna happen? So like, I had to see this.
Yeah, there was so much intrigue built into this whole thing with, his contract coming up and, the fact that, will WWE, are they really going to just have him lose? He can't lose. Like, are they really going to have Cena lose? Like, the booking to get to where they got was so brilliant. And
this to me was like a WrestleMania worthy match right here. The way they built this up, like if this was the main event of WrestleMania, I think this would have been like insanity. Obviously, it was in Chicago, so it made it a lot better because it was people booed the hell out of John Cena. People were way for CM Punk, but it's like you didn't like know what was gonna happen. It was like, okay, because it's John Cena, so it's like, is John Cena really gonna lose? Like, is he really losing the belt, or is it like, is CM Punk really like? You just didn't know what was gonna go down, so it was like, I think this definitely is on my list too. By the way, I think it's on my list. Yeah. The only thing that upsets me about this, they never had a WrestleMania match, which I really thought they should have had. I thought they should have had a WrestleMania match at 4. They should have had the incredible match they had on Monday Night Raw for the number 1 contenders match that they had. That could have been a WrestleMania match right there that year.
Yeah, and this is one of the few rivalries that actually, I mean, like WWE. I mean, sometimes they take things a little bit too long and they extend things to a degree. The middle portion of this got a little muddled when Triple H got involved and everything. Yeah. But like a good movie, like a good television show, I'd rather it end. It had a very good start and it had a very good end, which was that match you just mentioned when they wrestled on Raw to determine who was going to go and what was it for the number one to face The Rock. So and this rivalry had great promo work. It had great in-ring work. And again, emotional investment in the storyline that it's just hard to come by these days. So, in terms of like,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, in terms of modern, rivalries that have occurred in the WWE. I mean, this is like for me, just like it's like, not perfect, but damn near,
Before you speak, Conrad, let me add this. So. John Cena is my favorite wrestler of all time. Like, I grew up on John Cena, so that was my guy. But this was like the first time. John Cena.
That's my favorite wrestler. That makes sense. You're a youngin', man.
That's my era. So when I was a kid, John Cena was like Hogan for me. So it was like that was my era. But like this is when I started getting older. I was like 14 when this happened. So this is when I kind of started getting older. Started to like look around wrestling, kind of really look at the storylines and everything. And this was the first time. Because I love CM Punk too. CM Punk was my favorite. But this was the first time that like the stuff Punk was saying, I realized was so true. Like everything he was saying, I'm like, God, this is why people hate John Cena, because everything he's saying right here, like it's so true. And this is like, I remember when they did that promo when they were like, I think they were doing like a contract sign or something like that. And I think Punk said something, he said something like when he won the ECW championship, John Cena came up to him and said, "Good luck, kid. Like I almost gave up on you." And like CM Punk was so offended at that time, like, oh my God, like John Cena like doubting, like he was so offended, like John Cena, how dare you doubt me? Like CM Punk always believed in himself, and I think everything he spoke on the mic was 110% true to him because he believed that he was that good. But because of higher powers like the Undertakers, the Triple H's, the Shawn Michaels, the John Cenas, didn't really see much in him. I think those people got in Vince's ear, and I think that's why Punk was held down kind of a lot more than he should have been. And I think, those are the reasons that he was speaking out about, and you just felt everything he was saying was just real. You know what I mean? You just felt like what he was saying was just true and it was real. It was just from the heart. You know what I mean? That's why I think it made it so good too, because he was throwing stuff out there that you were kind of like, oh man, is he supposed to be saying that, or is that part of the script, or is that not part of the script, or like is that how he really feels? So that's why I think another thing why this feud is so good, because before they turned him heel, before they turned Punk heel, which was terrible. I mean, I like Punk as heel, but I don't think they should have turned him heel. I think before they turned him heel, the stuff that he was doing and saying against John Cena was kind of like, this is when the fans were I think this is the time where like, John Cena was still the guy, but like if anybody else could have replaced him, people wanted, this was the guy they wanted him to replace him.
Yeah, absolutely. Conrad, what were you doing?
I've been waiting, dog. All right. So I remember this day. We had like a festival or something in Buffalo. It's a big deal, whatever. I came home and I'm like, listen, I don't care what my wife says. We are getting out of here in time so I can see this Money in the Bank pay-per-view. I got to see what happens. The night when they did the pipe bomb promo, I fell asleep right before that. And Robert, the guy who does the other shows with me sometimes, was trying to wake me up. He was like, dude, your favorite wrestler is out there right now. And I did like leagues and stuff, and I was always CM Punk even before that, like when he was the ECW guy and stuff. He's like, dude, wake up. You got to see this. I woke up after the fact. He was like, dude, I recorded this just so you could see it. He's like, hold on, let me rewind it. And I watched the whole thing. He comes out in the Stone Cold shirt. I'm like, he's not supposed to come out in no Stone Cold shirt. Why would they let him wear that? That's odd. Maybe he didn't know he had the wrong shirt on. Sits down Indian style up at the top. Can I even say that anymore? Crisscross applesauce, whatever. I apologize for anyone who's offended. And he's sitting there, and he had the microphone in his hand, and he went to work talking about whatever. Fast forward, we get to that big match. And like Brian said, I remember my computer was back there at the time, and I had a different computer, but I just remember hearing CM Punk, and I watched it illegally. I'm going to tell you guys the truth too about that. CM Punk, CM Punk. Dude, they were going crazy, and I was just like, dude, same thing Brian said. Are they going to really let this tattooed up dude take the belt who held them up basically? Like, he's like, I'm not signing a contract. Okay, well, we need you. He was like, no, you don't. You let Miz main event a WrestleMania over me.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched one of my matches? Miz sucks. And I was like, dude, so true. He's way better than the Miz. The Miz is the company man, and I'll praise Miz now for all the stuff because I think I underappreciated him, but CM Punk is better than the Miz.
You're talking about back into that time. Back into that time.
Yeah, during that time. Yeah. And it was just an awesome feud. And even the match on Raw, when you guys brought that up, I thought of, remember when they got in trouble? CM Punk did the pile driver and John did a power bomb, and you weren't allowed to do those moves back then. Dude, that match was so dope. I remember I couldn't wait to get WWE 12 at the time for the games, just so I could redo the matches and stuff. Just like, oh, this was so dope, man. And I just thought it was going to be a new era in wrestling. And let me tell you guys this. Another thing that makes me realize the popularity of somebody. Where I used to work, I see lots of different people. And I'm not going to get into where it is, but just know I see a bunch of different people with different shirts and everything else. I always used to see Stone Cold shirts, NWO shirts, and Macho Man. Up there with those shirts, though, in my top 5, CM Punk, the best in the world shirts. I tried to order one the night it came out, and I couldn't. I had to wait till the next batch came out.
I remember that. Yeah, they sold out like immediately with those shirts.
And and as you guys know, where I work, I see so many people. Dude, that shirt was on everybody. People who didn't watch wrestling anymore. And I knew they didn't watch wrestling. I'm like, what's up with the CM Punk shirt? Oh, dude, I saw him cut that promo. I had to tune in to watch that. And I'm like, yo, this dude's got something. And I think WWE squandered that and that storyline. That's another podcast for another day.
Yeah, I think they got in the way like they usually do.
I think because of John Cena at the time, Vince McMahon wasn't going to put anybody above him. This is be real. He wasn't going to put anybody above John Cena, and I do think John Cena might have earned CM Punk's respect a little bit, a lot at the end, especially because I think CM Punk definitely didn't back down from anything John Cena was doing. So he was like, dude, I don't care if you're the guy. I'm going to show you why I'm just as good, if not better than you, and why I deserve to be in the spots that you were getting. So I think. Go ahead. You got something to say? Go ahead.
No, I wanted to say something. You just reminded me of another point I wanted to counter with you. I don't think that Undertaker and all those guys held Punk down. I think that maybe the rumor with Undertaker and the dress code stuff, whatever. I don't really care about that. That was a hold down moment. But I think guys like Shawn Michaels knew CM Punk's really good. Because I heard that he was one of the guys when Vince and then we're making fun of him for the, how he does the Muay Thai, the arm movements and stuff. Shawn Michaels stuck up for him and said, I don't see any of you guys going out there doing any better than this kid, so I wouldn't talk. And I
don't think they held him down, but I've heard like on interviews, like on Bruce Prichard stuff like that, he was saying like guys like Undertaker, Triple H, Shawn McMahon, they didn't see anything in him. They didn't see much in him. And I know after he won the world title, I think Bruce Prichard said he was sitting next to Undertaker. Undertaker kind of looked at him like, really, like you put the bill on this guy. So it's like, I feel like in CM Punk's mind, he was always doubted by the higher power, and that really upset him. You know what I mean? Like he wanted to earn the respect of his peers, and he felt like people doubted him for the way he looked. The tattoos, his straight edge style, not going out with the boys after the shows and having the beer and stuff like that, all that stuff. And I think that those are the stuff, when he talks about in his promos, when he's cutting promos on the John Cena or whoever he's working with. Even when he did this little thing with Triple H, when he's going out there and he's cutting promos, like you just do like you're like he's saying stuff like like deep down it's pissing Triple H off, like it's under his skin. You know what I mean? Like obviously Triple H isn't gonna break character out in the front of the crowd, but like it's just little stuff like when he's in his face and he's just talking to him. It's just little stuff that you just feel like Triple H under his skin. It's just like, oh, I want to punch this guy so bad in the face. You know what I mean? It's just like he's saying the stuff that as wrestling fans we want to hear, but people don't say it. He's speaking for people like us. You know what I mean? And I think
there's nothing better than watching a Click member get owned on the microphone. It pisses them off so bad. I remember Kevin Nash said that he hated The Rock for calling him Big Daddy Bitch one time. And I remember that. And Nash was so angry. And that time when Triple H said, I'm going to kick your skinny fat ass, I know he meant that. That was something he would say probably to people. And I'm like, yeah, he's pissed.
Yeah, he was good, man. I think that's why CM Punk was so, and I was so high. I don't know about you guys, but I was hurt when he left, dude. Didn't like the way he left and everything. I was so upset because, like, God, this guy. If they just given this guy like this guy had a match with the Undertaker at WrestleMania and was mad about the match he was in. He felt like he should have been in the main event that year. He was so upset they had a match with the Undertaker at WrestleMania. He was like, I think
it just boils down to me. It's like you said. I mean, you can get it. I've heard the backstage stories and stuff about people trying to hold him down too. I think at the end of the day, I mean, you said it. I think Vince, I think McMahon, he valued CM Punk, but there was no way he was gonna supplant or put him on either above Cena or at that level. And I think that's just how McMahon sees guys. And CM Punk's not the first that's been kind of glass ceiling that way.
I think that's how. I think it's how Bret Hart felt too. When Shawn Michaels was coming up and he was playing that position, I think Bret Hart might have felt the same way CM Punk did. Like, okay, like I work just hard as this guy. Obviously, he believes he's just better as this guy, but like, Shawn Michaels was so good and great. He was, obviously we know all the backstage stuff, but like when you're in a top position like that, you're not gonna let anybody take that fight. You know what I mean? So it's like I think Bret might have felt the same way CM Punk did, like how CM Punk felt about John Cena.
I always tell people this. I can relate to CM Punk for other jobs that I've had, and I pray to God no one from my work ever sees this because now they're going to find out the real reason why I quit. I left my other job recently where I was in a higher position, and I quit because I had a real conversation with someone who I trusted at the time, and they said, listen, I'm telling you now, this is your final score for the year. And I knew there was a promotion coming up for the next level, and there's only one person's going to get it. And I do all these extra duties more than anybody else. And they were like, you're not going to get it. And I said, okay, that's cool. And it wasn't like the person didn't respect me. They were telling me out of respect and in confidence. But once I saw everyone else and I was like, hey, how'd you do on your thing? Oh, I did pretty good, blah, blah, blah. And I already knew that they were in the contention of you're going to get this next spot. And I'm doing all this work to get nothing. And they're giving you the brass ring speech at all these meetings. Like, yeah, if you could just get up there and do this. And I'm like, this is BS. You already knew who you wanted. And then I came in and I was just like, I did everything right. And I did it properly. Unlike CM Punk, who just left in the middle of a contract. But I was like, I'm done. There's no room for me to be second best here. Like, I don't want your silver medal. I'm out. You gave me, oh, you're the supervisor of the year. You're the best employee in the whole New York area. And I'm like, I don't want to hear any of that, dog. Cash or nothing. Like, there's just, you know what motivates your people? I'm like, you guys don't know me. So I'm out. And they were like, he left. Like, my boss was looking for me on my like second last day. He was like, where's CJ? And I just kind of like stood away and I eventually scooted out. He never saw me again. It was just like, I wanted to thank him for everything he did. And there was nothing you could say. So my point to that is CM Punk was tired of the BS. He doesn't want to come back. I get it. I get why the dude's like, no, I'm done with this.
I respected CM Punk, already just for his talents and everything else. The way that he left, I mean, that to me, that's on brand with who CM Punk is. The fact that he kind of felt, you know what, I'm done. I've put my body through the ringer. I'm better at promos than probably just about anybody. And I see now that I'm never going to be able to achieve the things that I personally want to for my career in this company. So I'm going. I respect that. Like, when you get to a point, especially when you've got to go out there, putting your body on the line, you're bumping your ass off, taking all these adding to your bump card. Don't do that if you're in an unhappy place for yourself, for your opponent. Not that he would ever do anything, to injure an opponent, but it ain't worth it at that point. And I respect him immensely for going in and just basically laying it out there to Triple H, to Vince about why he was leaving. And I'm glad that, not glad, but I mean, I'm glad that he stood up for himself and knew his value and his worth. And basically, yeah, taking this ball and going home. I applaud him for it. And I hope to never see him in WWE again. And I respect him. I'm glad he tried his UFC stuff. It didn't go well, but you know what? Again, the guy's, he's fearless. He put himself in a situation where he knew, yeah, I'm either going to get my ass whooped or I'm going to win, but I'm willing to deal with, whatever consequence, may befall me. The guys, I love CM Punk. The only blip on him for me personally is when he sued Cole Cabana. Like that's kind of sad to see that their friendship is
it was split. Colt sued him.
What?
Colt sued him.
Oh, that's right. But for not agreeing to cover the legal costs or something like that.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, come on,
Punk won too. It's weird. I don't know what's going on with that. I wish they were friends still. That's like
he won that case. So yeah, we're kind of losing topic. But the last thing I'll say about this as a rivalry, and I'm going to use my pen as me dropping the mic, is that this might be one of the only feuds we talk about that made it in to Showcase, and was in fact in the first Showcase in WWE 2K15 was us covering the CM Punk and John Cena rivalry. So I think just off of that alone, it needs to be up on the list.
Yeah, that saved my league actually at the time because I was CM Punk. They're like, man, what are you gonna do?
All right, so let's have a vote. Is CM Punk and John Cena on the list?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I agree.
I already checked it out. You're talking.
That was on topic. So,
dude, you know why? Because you can go all day with the CM Punk topic. Like, dude, if I started going into the stuff even after he left, I'll go on a rant so bad. I'm waiting. That's going to be a podcast one day just for me. Like, it's going to be an hour, probably 30, 40 minutes of me just talking about it, and I'm going off on anybody who disagrees, and I don't care.
All right, so let's see. Let's back up a little bit. So let's talk about what about another Hogan? What about Hogan and Macho Man? Let's talk about another Hogan feud. So we have Hogan and Andre that mentioned. What do you guys think about Hogan and Macho Man?
The mega powers and all that stuff, and they're breaking up and all that.
How you just sounded is how I feel. I'm like,
I mean, I'm kind of meh on that as a feud, to be honest. I mean, I know. Yeah, I mean, again, it was good. It was a good feud. I wouldn't put it like, I think I've got matches on here that, in matches we've talked about, that I would, that I think would supplant it. But yeah, I mean, hey, I get it was definitely a memorable rivalry for sure. But I mean, I don't know, like Hogan, he was kind of a dick in that whole situation too. You know what I mean? It's like he's supposed to be the good guy. It's kind of like, hey, I'm kind of riding with Macho Man over here, man. You're getting yourself too familiar with Elizabeth and all this. But no, I don't know. For me, it's I would say no. What say you guys?
I don't know. That's a tough one too. If this was like greatest storylines of all time, I would probably say that this may be top 10. But this isn't storylines. This is about the entire rivalry. They started off as friends. And like I said, this is all bleeding over from 87, 88, 89. Like it was just one long continuous feud. And I know a lot of kids who are your favorites back in the 80s. It was either Hogan, Macho Man. If you're in the South, I guess you would hear Ric Flair or Sergeant Slaughter. But Hogan, Macho Man, Warrior. I just don't see it though, man. Like Savage was always treated as a B champion. He got I call it the Jericho CM Punk push of you're the champ, but you're not in the main event. You need this
I was just about to say, yep. We were just talking about it. Like he was the CM Punk at the time. You know what I mean? He was like, you can be the number 2, but you're never gonna supplant Hogan.
Yeah, you need Hogan to team up with you so we can make sure this is a sellout. Guaranteed. Yeah. It's kind of a slap in the face. But I'm sure back then the belt meant so much to the guy that he was just like, well, I'm the champ, so I know Vince believes in me. And they're going with that. And Vince is telling Hogan, like, listen, I need you out there, brother. You're going to get paid. Trust me. All right, dude.
Yeah, I think there's always certain guys like the Hogans, the Cenas, the Stone Cold, who are the guys. And no matter who they work with, Vince probably telling them, hey, look, we need you to get this guy over, but you're still the guy. Don't worry about it. And I think Macho Man was obviously the B champion. You're right, he was the B champion. Hulk Hogan was the guy. There was no way he was surpassing Hulk Hogan at the time. And the story they told was great. I did like this. I think the story they told was really great. Like Brian said, you kind of felt you kind of felt for Macho Man a little bit. Hogan was kind of going towards Elizabeth a little bit, so you're kind of like, whoa, like is he getting a little bit too close to her? Like what's going on with that man? So like you kind of felt where Macho Man was coming from a little bit. But at the end, Hogan was gonna win. He was gonna be champion. He didn't get the belt back. But I don't have this on my list personally. I thought it deserved at least a mention. I think it's they told a great story. I think they told a great rivalry, but it's not on my list. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's definitely, yeah. I'm glad you brought it up because, yeah, it's worthy of that mention. I won't even say, yeah, it's an honorable mention, but yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I think that's where it should stay.
All right. So what about I know everything college basketball and nothing ever come. He said, what about Triple H versus The Rock? What do you guys feel about that one?
Oh yeah, Conor, you can go. Go ahead.
Conor, you go first. Conor, go ahead.
I talk so much crap about Triple H. This is the one time you're probably going to hear me say some good stuff about him. Triple H deserves great amounts of respect for him and The Rock. From the moment that Rock came in, those two were intertwined. Think about it. Rock's first match, Triple H was on the opposite Survivor Series team. Boom. Number one. Then Rock feuded for the Intercontinental Championship as Rocky Maivia. Who did he beat for the title? Triple H. It worked itself out. Triple H was still, then they changed characters. The Rock joins the Nation. Triple H is in DX. Who's feuding for the mid-card title still? The Rock and Triple H. They had that awesome match at SummerSlam 98, Highway to Hell, I think it was.
Yeah.
I remember watching that on pay-per-view with my buddy. And that was such a dope match. They beat the hell out of each other. Even the Mark Henry China being out there. It was all good stuff. And they elevated others around them. But those two knew we're destined for the stardom. They get to the WWF title. Even Rock won it first. Whatever. Triple H did some salty stuff in between then. He had to take some L's. But Triple H then rose to the same level. And then those two feuded again. And it was great stuff. Like, I felt like you could put Rock versus Triple H as many times on any pay-per-views as you wanted, and it was always good. You could always come back and go to it, and I loved it. They never had a feud to where it was like, all right, we're going to fight each other for an entire year. It was, all right, we're back at it again. I'm the number one contender. What do you want to do? And the promos were great. Oh, Rock comes out here with his nursery rhymes, and Triple H and his cronies are laughing, and then The Rock does the I'm the gamer, and he just went, oh, dude, good stuff. And honestly, if The Rock or when he decides to retire, I think it's got to be The Rock versus Triple H. That should be Rock's last match. And
if you guys remember, they did a little backstage thing a couple years ago where they're kind of teasing them maybe another WrestleMania match. I was watching. I was like, oh my god, please, this one last time, let it happen one last time. So I mean,
and you know what? I want it to be like an Attitude Era match when they do it too. I know we're getting off topic, but it's got to have like all the shenanigans, all the.
Oh, it's definitely going to. If that happens, it's definitely going to because neither one of those guys is going to be able to work like an actual match. It's going to be like a Sting versus Triple H type situation. That was I agree with everything you said, Comrade, about this match. I mean, yeah, this was a very good rivalry. But for me, I find it kind of funny that we're discussing a Triple H versus Rock rivalry ahead of The Rock versus Steve Austin.
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that one. We're gonna get to that
one. But just for that, there's no. I couldn't put Triple H and Rock on a list of the 10 greatest rivalries. I thought this was good, but no. For me, good is good. You know, it's like not everything is going to be that all-time epic upper echelon feud, and I really don't think this was. I thought it was, but I thought it was great or good enough, you know. But for me, it doesn't hit those heights of some of the other things we've been talking about.
Okay, so what about Austin versus Rock then?
Well, I mean, I think that's a given, right? Is anybody gonna say no to The Rock versus Stone Cold and their matches? I mean,
first of all,
Conrad, you're leaning back in your seat there.
I'm thinking.
I have to say, first of all, nobody sells that stunner better than The Rock. I don't care who it is. You give that Rock the stunner, he sells that thing like crazy. It's hilarious every time he does it. They've had 3 matches at WrestleMania. All of them were pretty good matches. They had a classic one at 17 that nobody ever forgets. 2 of the top, they're on the Mount Rushmore for top baby faces of all time. Let's be real. I mean, these guys, The Rock is obviously super entertaining, probably the most entertaining superstar of all time. Stone Cold, to me, the most popular superstar of all time. You have the two guys clash. It's bread and butter, man. I mean, it's definitely on my list. I got it on my list. So
Yeah.
But
This is. Oh, go ahead.
It's weird for me because when I hear the word rival, I don't think Stone Cold first. When I think of The Rock, I really do think of Triple H. And maybe it's like I said, maybe I've always thought so much into the Rocky Maivia, Nation Rock, Main Event Rock, and then Triple H kind of followed suit. I don't know. I just think that's his greatest rival. And Stone Cold, I'm not saying that he was bad with The Rock, because when you said that, I was like, yeah, everybody hears the Limp Bizkit My Way in their head as soon as you see the beers clashing and the invasion angle and stuff like that too. It's just, can we have both of those on here? That's a lot of Rock. He's taking up a good part of the list if he's got two. I would have to put that in the I'll consider it.
All right, I'll put it in the consideration for now. We'll come back to it.
What happened with Rock Triple H?
You want to put it in consideration?
Was it on there? Or did you put it on the list, or was it considered?
We can put it. Well, he said no. So what do you think?
Well, we can vote on it. Mine would be no, but
I think it should. I said yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so Malik,
it's not on my list. I don't have it on my list.
Well, we know where that goes. All right. Well,
hey, Conrad, you put up a really good argument.
I think you brought up some good points. I think I'm different from you. When I think of Rock's feud, I think of Austin. Austin's the first one that comes to my head, at least. So
yeah, me too.
Triple H is obviously a great feud, and I think I agree with you on the retirement thing. If Rock ever comes back, I think Triple H should be just like Batista this year. Batista's going to be his last match. I think no better person to retire than Triple H. So, I don't know though, man. I think it's his second greatest rivalry. I don't know. I think the Austin one is just. Maybe it's the fact that they never had a match at WrestleMania, which they might have one down the road. But I mean, they had 3 matches at WrestleMania, which were and they were all close together too. They were just like a year apart too.
I just compare it to that's Hogan and Warrior. Like that feud is like, oh man, I don't think I would ever expect to see this again. Compared to, I'm trying to think of like Hogan and DiBiase or whatever, where that you're going to see them constantly in matches. Like, you got to admit, back in the day, I'm surprised people weren't writing all over internet blogs like, I am so sick of seeing The Rock versus Triple H. Like, they fought a lot and nobody really noticed how often they fought each other.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it was a good. I
think it should be on the list because they had the 3 matches, and you got to think Stone Cold's last match was against The Rock when he put him over at WrestleMania. No better way for Stone Cold. I think Stone Cold's mind is no better way to go out. Hey, if I'm gonna go out, this is the guy to put me over. This is the guy that's gonna put me out. So there's something you should do. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I linked to the rivalries a little bit, and I felt like theirs was kind of like on, off. Stay away from it, and then they would get back into a situation like put them back together, put it on. Yeah, that's a great match we can always go to, and
right.
It's great. I can agree with you guys on that. It is a great rivalry thing about. Like I said, that My Way is probably in the top 5 greatest video packages they've ever done. I don't know who did that, but shout out to you. You're the man.
And I think it's like Malik said, as good as the Triple H Rock stuff was, I just think, we're Rock and Austin, like their matches, and I guess, because, I mean, a lot of their shit culminated at WrestleMania, like their matches just carry more weight than, the stuff that was going on with Triple H and The Rock. But like I said, I enjoyed that feud, though. But yeah, I think
so when
I think of those two, I think of them together.
One feud I want to mention, I don't personally have it on my list, I'm out there, but I think it deserves a mention. I want to talk about Undertaker versus Kane. I think this feud right here did a lot for definitely did elevate Kane to a new level. I mean, he wasn't doing anything before he was Kane. So and I think at the time this happened, we needed an opponent for Undertaker. Needed somebody who was bigger than him and somebody scarier than him, somebody believable, where you thought that he could possibly maybe get dominated or beaten for the first time. So, what do you guys think about Undertaker versus Kane?
Conrad, you go, man. I saw you jumping up over there, man. You go,
yes.
Baby.
I wrote this down as one that I didn't think that we'll get to talk about. And hold on, I'm telling everything college basketball. I wrote down what he wanted to talk about. So if you are still in there, you'll hear me bring up your match later for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about he wrote on.
Yeah, but back to Undertaker and Kane, I thought that this was the dopest storyline. I wanted to at least mention this one because of, remember how they started off? Like, I love storylines with I have a secret. And you're like, oh, what's the secret? What's the secret, Paul Bear? You better tell me. And it all started around the time. Was that like the 97 King of the Ring when Paul Bear changed his hair to like one of my favorite promos by Ron Simmons? You better not be worried about Paul Bear's blackmail. You better be worried about this blackmail because I'm coming for the World Wrestling Federation title. Sorry. But one of my favorite promos. And I kept wondering, like, well, who's the Undertaker's brother? And then they told that storyline of they were smoking cigarettes out back. And I'm like, yo, you don't know anything about the Undertaker. Now you're like, Paul Bear worked at the funeral parlor with they made it believable. They brought some elements of realism in it. And I was like sucked in. I'm like, well, who's the Kane dude? I got to see him. And when I first saw Undertaker, he was like a scary dude. My very first house show ever I went to, I think it was in Buffalo at the Odd or Niagara Falls Civic Center, whatever it was. The Undertaker was on that card fighting the British Bulldog. And I was scared to death. I remember like gripping my father's polo as hard as I could, like, yeah, just don't let the dude come too close to me, Dad. Yeah, we're good. And Kane gave me that exact same feeling, even though I was older. I remember you saw the fireworks go down, Kane comes out, you're like, yo, shit, this dude's got a scary mask on. This is some Friday the 13th shit. And he comes up, and Jim Cornette booked this shit perfect. Sorry for swearing. He came up, and when he grabbed the door and ripped it off the frame, I'm like, oh, this dude's not human. I'm like, oh, this is going down. And Undertaker just stood there like a beef, like he didn't know what to do. Like, hey, bro. Oh, Tombstone. And it was just amazing how they set it all up. Are the matches great? Hell no. Like some of those matches later on are terrible, in my opinion. Like absolute dog crap. But the initial storytelling of this feud was great to me. And I love playing it. Like you said, in the 30 years of WrestleMania, dude, absolutely love playing WrestleMania 14 where Kane's Tombstone and The Undertaker, they made Kane look like a monster in defeat.
A monster. Yeah.
Love that.
I think the first time I saw Kane, my uncle used to watch wrestling. He wanted to show me the guy because I like Undertaker. I thought it was pretty scary when I was a kid too. He was like, let me show you something. So he had me watch the whole story. It was on the Undertaker DVD. And we watched the Undertaker DVD that came out that did like box office for him. And I'm watching. I'm like, what the? I was invested like Conrad. I was invested in the story. I'm like, what? You know, part of like, what are they talking about? Fire and everything. I'm like, what are they talking about? So I'm like, all invested into it and stuff. And then when this guy comes out at Hell, was it King of the Ring? 90 was it King of the Ring? Was it the
Or no?
He came out.
Was it Bad Blood?
Bad Blood. It's Bad Blood. Bad Blood.
Yes.
Bad Blood. You're right. When he came out at Bad Blood, I was like, who is this? This guy's a monster. Like he had the scary mask and everything. I was like, I thought he was instantly scary. Like Undertaker is like scary, but this guy right here is like, he didn't speak. I remember how Kane would do like the facial expression with his face. Like he would tilt his head this way and he kind of look at you. He had that little contact in his eye and everything. He had those two different contacts. And he would kind of look at you with that little look and like he would tilt his head and his hair would like fall down. And he look at you all scary and stuff. I was like, yo, this guy is absolutely creepy, dude. I'm like, no, I don't want nothing about this guy. His match at WrestleMania 14, even though he lost, he was like a freaking beast in that match. Kicked out like 2 tombstones where he beat this guy. To me, this was the best Kane ever, like hands down.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is my favorite version of Kane, and at that time he was basically WWE's Jason Voorhees. The way that he was booked, and like you said, he didn't talk, but like his slight, mannerisms and twisting of the head, like the guy. I love this early version of Kane. And I feel bad. I didn't even think about this, and I'm glad you brought it up, Malik. But yeah, I'm like, oh man, I'm like, dude, how could I have not even thought about Taker and Kane? Probably because like when I think about Kane and Taker now, because they're still freaking somewhat involved, I'm like, ugh. Like the thought of seeing them, it's like, oh, I don't want any of that. But yeah, going back to when Kane first debuted and all the lead up to it. Yeah, man. And yeah, I mean, the matches weren't great, but they weren't bad.
I think they started off good and then they kind of like got worse.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And maybe that was the age thing or whatever, but Taker was trying to get put back into the new Dead Man character. And I hated the vegetative state storyline in like 2011 or 12.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, bad.
I do like I said, though, for me, like, you guys maybe speak on this a little better. I think this was the first time a lot of people looked at Kane. Maybe this guy could destroy the Undertaker. Like, this is maybe the first time you looked at Kane, and this guy's bigger than the Undertaker. He's stronger than the Undertaker. He's more scary than the Undertaker. You believe like this guy he killed the Undertaker.
Okay, like you said, Kane was at his best at this point because, like Jason, he did the bidding basically for his mother. Paul Bearer was telling him what to do, and they had that perfectly. I think they ran in the Attitude Era. They ran through stuff so fast, and I'm like, dude, you could have done so much more with this, and you just blew through it so quick. Like,
Another thing that I loved about Kane too is his theme song. I love this theme song that he had at the time, and like the whole scary like little in the beginning, and then the fire, boom, the fire hit that had that little scary like tone.
The organ,
like,
oh my god! So that used to kind of creep me out too.
It sounds like horror music, like a horror movie. You know what I mean? But I definitely think this deserves. I personally don't have this on my list, but I thought it deserved at least to discuss this.
I mean, I think just for the simple fact that outside of just how compelling the story was on its own, the introduction of Kane added, and you mentioned it, you alluded to this, Conrad. It added so many more layers to Undertaker's character. You know, things that up until that point we hadn't really even thought of, and it's like, whoa, this dude got a brother. Like he really, whoa, it's like it had you questioning things that you thought you knew about the Undertaker as a character, and it just helped flesh him out more. And like you said, yeah. I mean, Kane, this attire, this version, I mean, the mask, his work, the way he looked, everything about this version of Kane was my all-time favorite. And yeah, for me, it gets a vote to get onto the list, which is crazy because yeah, like I said, it was one that I hadn't even thought about. I'm glad that you brought it up, but I vote for it.
I think it's a put it to the side.
Okay, so we'll come back to the mentions. Yeah, this was definitely the best version of Kane. The only other version I don't like more than Kane, but it was up there to me as scary is when they started putting him in the shackles. When he took the mask off the first time, they started bringing him out the shackles.
Oh god,
I like that. I like that Kane. I used to like that Kane when I was a kid because that was like.
Is that when he was promoting See No Evil? Or what was that? What was the movie he was in?
Yeah, it was See No Evil. I'm trying to remember if that might have been after. See, that Kane was doing well until he lost to Taker, and then like after that. That was Kane's like nosedive. Like they were done with Kane.
I mean, like at first, like when he first started, like when he first unmatched and they first started doing that stuff.
First original Kane's the best, and then I think Diesel Kane, like when he was going through he still had the same mask, but he had the sleeveless and see-through kind of sequence, and Kane that ran through the electrical store or whatever with all the tape around him and it looked weird. Those were the most badass Kanes where I thought he could have been champion. I'm like, dude, give the guy the belt once, please. And they gave it to him for a day once. Just sad, man. I love you, Kane.
So we had that in the mention. So what about another few we want to bring up?
Wait, can I mention something real quick? Just about and maybe the next match will have this, but do any of y'all have any women on your list?
I didn't know.
No.
I'm not sexist for the record, but I tried to think about them, and I have one match for the women that I would put on mine.
I mean, I have one few for the one that comes to my mind off the top of my head. So what do you have?
Well, because I've got two that I wrote down. Just to try to add some.
Wait! Before you say it, I want to put two down too. I have two. Go ahead.
Okay. So the first one I have is Trish Stratus and Mickie James.
Yes.
Okay. And then the second one that I have is Bayley and Sasha and their feud in NXT.
I'm good, Brian. Brian has said both of mine. I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Because I really enjoyed the Trish Stratus Mickie James feud.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't deserve to be on an all-time list, but for me it resonated because like at that time, well, that was WrestleMania 23, right? 22, where they had their match.
This one she grabbed. This one she grabbed the private area.
What's that?
This one she grabbed. She took a handful of her hand. She grabbed the private area. Remember that? She did.
Yeah. But like this was a feud that they didn't give women at the time like this amount of screen time. Like this was like because I remember watching like wow, they're really giving them a really cool kind of compelling story here with Mickie being that deranged stalker chick, like trying to mimic her hero and all this. And I just remember really getting involved, like for the first time watching WWE, like wow, this is actually one of the better angles of storylines they've got going on. And I was in that crowd in WrestleMania 22 when this match occurred, and the match was good. It wasn't an all-time classic, but it was good. But I just remember being there, and everyone was so into this match. I mean, I was, and everybody. The funny thing was, everybody was so into Mickie, the heel. And and at that time, that was the first time that I've been in a WWE crowd or just audience where everybody gave a damn about the women wrestling. You know, and this was going on at a time where women weren't what they are now in terms of the popularity and the attention given to the division. Yep. And they really were able to rise above that.
Can I ask
so that's one of the reasons why I thought about it.
Just for both of you real quick, do you think that was like a snowball effect from having people like Jazz and Victoria involved in all that stuff, and then it kind of snowballed into, hey, we kind of care about the women, and Mickey and Trish would be really good? Like, to me, it seemed like the matches started to matter a little bit more around that point if the talent was there, if the talent level was something they could believe in and still push what WWE wanted for that time without me getting too deep into it.
You know, I don't know. And I think there probably was that snowball effect that led into this feud, but then it stopped because after they ran through this rivalry, like, what can you name another female-driven story that you can remember from this time period? The only other thing that comes to mind is Lita and Trish, and they had some good matches. But it's like it started in effect, but the WWE, they didn't really give. It was like a start and stop type thing.
I feel like everything changed once Trish left, because Trish Stratus was someone who you could get behind at that point. And then you saw, okay, Trish couldn't wrestle at first. I don't know if you knew that, Malik, but Trish was horrible. And eventually it turned into Trish. I'm like, damn, she's been working on this. She's really good. Like, she could have just went with my body looks great. When you heard that Trish Stratus music, boys used to grab the lotion and be like, Mom, close the door. Close the door. She's coming out.
And I think the fact that she actually, got herself and improved in the ring as much as she did led to her getting over with the crowd probably just as much as her looks, at least because I noticed it too. I'm with you. I remember when she first started and she was out there, more just being a valet. And when she started, she would get in the ring, but she was so bad. But you start to see her really improving. I'm like, oh, well, she really gives a damn.
And you think like that Mandy Rose and Liv Morgan, as soon as I see them, I'm like, listen, they may not be all that great right now, but if these girls can wrestle, they could be the top of the company. I told everybody, Mandy Rose is getting a push. It's happening. Like,
and Mandy Rose is a lot better now than she was a year ago. And as a performer, that's all you can ask. I mean, she's still green. She's still learning this stuff, but she is improving. So I give her that much credit.
Yeah.
But that was there. But yeah, so those are my two matches that I, just for consideration, I felt, to see if how you guys feel about if they're worthy to be on the top 10 list.
So I wouldn't put them on my list, but I think, as for women's feuds, if we did like a women's feud, those would definitely be on the list. Those right there. Especially Sasha and Bayley. Sasha and Bayley, that NXT match, that's probably the greatest women's match I think I've ever seen, for me personally.
You talking about Brooklyn?
Yeah, the one they had in Brooklyn, because that's when the women really started to evolve and start to change it. And I think that was the first time a lot of people maybe looked at women's wrestling like, okay, these guys can go better than the guys can. So I mean, that match right there, everything about the match was beautiful. The feud that they had was great. And the Trish, the Mickey stuff too. I was 2006. I was like 8-9 years old at the time, and that was one of the times where I was kind of like, I thought Mickey James was like psycho. You know what I mean? Like, she was obsessed with Trish Stratus. She was trying to like beat Trish Stratus. I remember she would dress up as Trish Stratus and all that stuff. So I'm like, this girl was like psycho. And I remember watching WrestleMania that year live. And I remember that was kind of one of the matches I actually was watching, kind of like just paying attention to, really like kind of just like paying attention to like what they were doing and everything. And actually a little surprised that Mickey James won. I didn't, because at the time as a little kid, I kind of thought Trish Stratus was like, oh, she's Trish Stratus, so she's gonna win. And then they give it to Mickey James. So I definitely think it deserves a mention too. But yeah, I like those two feuds that you mentioned. This was a women's list, I think, but I mean, no, I'm not.
We're excluding women. No, this is just a male list.
Whoa.
No. I'm saying like I think like there were just a lot more male feuds that you would look over than this. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot more feuds that for the men that you would kind of just look over it, like these feuds. You know what I mean? That makes sense.
Oh, it does. I actually would go to bat for Bayley and Sasha to be included on this list. I mean, just for the ring work alone, I think at least worth consideration. But the fact that, yes, the ring work was exemplary, but the storytelling in this feud was incredible too. And again, just going back to it hit all the emotional beats that a lot of storylines just don't really give you. I mean, this man, I can't even front. Like, there were matches these two had where I was like in tears at the end of one of them. When it was probably the Brooklyn one. Is that when Bailey won?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The reverse Hurricane. Woo!
Yeah. Like, I mean, the emotion, like, I mean, nobody, any rivalry or feud that kind of allows you to fully suspend your disbelief and just buy in to the narrative, which is rare, especially nowadays, with everybody talking about backstage stuff. So many people, it's easy to bring the real life into a story to kind of help flesh things out. I didn't need to do that with this. And honestly, with the way NXT books their stuff, I rarely have to. And this had me hook, line, and sinker. It had so much, gravitas to the whole thing, and the fact that they main evented that Brooklyn show too with this match, didn't they?
They main evented the next two, or what was the show after this? That's when they had the
Respect. Was it Respect?
Yes,
that's when they had the Iron Man. That's when they had the Iron Man match.
Yeah, and even that match. Oh my God, man!
And can I just compliment Sasha on her heel work? Sasha's my favorite female on the roster at this time, and I think she's in a spot. I'm glad she's a tag champ. Not mad about that, but I think Sasha is a single star. In all honesty, her and Bailey, and they really deserve to be on that pedestal. When Sasha was a heel in that match, and I can't remember the girl's name now.
Izzy.
What's her name?
Izzy. She made her cry, yo.
Yeah, when she took her headband and threw it, I was like, yes, that's a heel. Why can't we get that?
She was straight crying. Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
For the record, one more sidebar. Izzy one day better join the main roster and beat the hell out of Bailey and turn heel and be like, I believed in you when I was a kid. And they just show the highlights. It has to happen, Izzy. It has to happen.
You know what? You say that, it probably will, man.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
I remember that, just thinking like, wow, that's like some healer stuff like that people don't even do. Like, this is a little girl right here, and she took her headband.
Yeah. That was cold blooded. I mean, I'm watching this. I'm like, God damn, Sasha, that might be a step too far. It's like, come on, man.
I also like, one of my favorite things about this match. I also liked when she had her in the bank statement and Bailey's going to reach for the ropes, and she's stomping on her foot, like on her hand.
Yeah, stomping. I was
just like, man, that was an incredible match. The feud they had was great too, especially the ending of NXT when they had the Iron Man women match and Respect, and that was obviously Sasha's exit from NXT and everything. The feud they had in NXT was great, but the reason it doesn't make my list is because it was only good in NXT. You know, they haven't really done anything with them on the main roster. They teased it a little bit last year, but then they did nothing with it. They didn't go anywhere with it. So it was like, they teased like they were going to have a match at WrestleMania. I think it was right around the time last year. And then all of a sudden, they were fighting backstage, and people were like, "Oh, we might get Sasha and Bailey at WrestleMania." But then they just like, they just dropped off the face of the earth. You know what I mean? Like, just to forget all about it. Now they're like best friends and they're tag team champions and everything, which is great. It's better than doing nothing. But it's like,
so everything you said is true, but everything you said is also an indictment of the main roster creative team, aka Vince McMahon. The fact that the feuds were so good in NXT is something to be applauded, I think. And and for me, like, I just take whatever they did in NXT, and as much as I'd like to say it's a universe, this is not a universe, or if it is, they're not connected. Because it's like whatever happens to NXT, I just kind of take is that whole, like, their rivalry in NXT for me was just a tour de force. And I will say that was a perfectly booked, perfectly executed rivalry. And the fact that it was relegated to NXT, yes, it was, but for me, I don't look at that as a reason to disqualify it from potentially being on this list.
I think that match should be on here. In all honesty, the Bailey Sasha one should be. I think that people will put in the other part, like Malik said. I'm not blaming you, Malik. I think that a lot of fans of today will always just be like, "Well, what did they do on the main roster with them?" And I'm like, listen, there's another match on here that I'm going to talk about, and I'm pretty sure Brian will too, that I fear for later on what's going to happen with this. Like, I have fear in my heart, and I want to go on a little miniature rant when it's time for that one. But I think that during that time of when people would put on submissions on the main roster and they sucked, the females in NXT had better submission moves than the guys. I just think it should be on there. They told a great story. The whole Triple H coming out with the flowers for both of them after. It's a great story. Women never main evented a show. That, to me, was the first match where I'm like, yo, this is a real women's revolution. Like, I really can get behind the girls now. Because at first I didn't get it. I was just like, why do all the fans like girls now? I'm like, what's up with this? Like, it started in my league. This one dude was like, yeah, I just want to do female matches. And I'm like, female matches? I'm like, bro, don't you want to be Shelton Benjamin? Or, there's some dope dudes here. Zack Ryder's like, no, I'm good. I'll be Paige. What? And I just didn't get it. But that taught me through that storyline, like, dude, this can be really dope.
Yeah. I think so what are you putting in the mentions? What are we doing?
I think it at least should be in the mentions.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna vote for it outright, so it's got my vote. I think it needs to be up there.
I think if this was like an NXT, like top maybe like NXT matches or list, then they definitely would be on there. Question, they might even be number one over a lot of people. But I just think there are a lot of other great feuds that I would put over that, man. I think there are a lot of other feuds that me personally I would put over that one.
We haven't even mentioned some of these other ones yet. Oh my!
There's a lot of great ones we haven't even mentioned yet. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of great ones we haven't even gone through yet. We still have ones on the mentions list that I think should be on there, like Rock and Austin.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you right now, both of y'all. I don't care what else you got on your list. Your two lists over there, ain't nothing probably gonna be as good as Sasha and Bailey.
I got one that's better than Sasha and Bailey that I haven't even mentioned.
Okay. Better is overstated, but on par, or that's all I'll say.
Okay, so what about I got somebody in the comments. He said, "What about Triple H versus Mick Foley? What do you guys think about that one?"
Ooh, I have that written down.
I like Triple H's feud with Mick Foley better than I did with The Rock. This is me personally, but I like this feud better with Mick Foley.
Oh hell no! You didn't just respect Rock like that. Mick Foley got pedigreed on thumbtacks. That was Triple H's tough guy match. Triple H was not viewed as super tough until Mick Foley went out there like, listen, Hunter. He gave him the Terry Funk speech, like, listen, I'm gonna let you beat my ass, and I want to get paid from this, all right? And then after I'm done with this, I'm retiring. I can't do this anymore. And that was a lie because Foley couldn't stay away. But he took a brutal beating to make Triple H look like a tough guy, and Triple H had to take some punishment too to look tough. It's the Backlash match. Bless you too. The Randy Orton Backlash match. Like this was his tough guy moment. That's like the one match I feel like the Miz needs. If you want Miz to be a believable main eventer, there's no one in the company today that can give you that. Dude, I'm going to slam you on thumbtacks. I'm going to bust you open. Like, it's going to happen, and the fans are going to love you for it, and this is why. Or Shawn Michaels, Mankind. Was it Mind Games? I think that was the pay-per-view. That was like a classic tough guy match, and I don't know. I thought that they did a lot of good work for each other in this. It established Triple H as a main event top heel that I could believe in.
No, yeah. I definitely agree with that. I mean, It made me take Triple H more serious as a result of their matches, which is what the that was the end goal of this whole thing. So it worked on that. It was this was a good rivalry, a good feud. I mean, I can't say that it wasn't, and they got the desired results. Personally, it's not a favorite of mine, but it was good. And that's really, I can't really say too much more about it than that.
Not top 10.
Yeah, yes, I don't think so.
I don't have it on my list either, but it was in the comments, so I wanted to. Another one in the comments. Everything college basketball. Another comment is he said, "What about HBK versus Chris Jericho? What do you guys think about that one?"
I got that on my list.
Now I love this feud because there were so many great things they did about this feud. This was I seen that.
We're talking which feud? We're talking about the one like was it 2005 when Jericho came back and he was okay. All right.
Wait, so obviously they had the little feud too in like 2003 when they were at WrestleMania and everything.
I thought that was really good too. That's underrated.
It was. That's what happened, to see.
Yeah. So we can talk about the feuds in general. It's a feud between the two. So I like the one they did in 2008 though because Chris Jericho has said this was supposed to be a one-time thing. This is supposed to be like a one-off thing, whatever. And they end up turning it into like a whole month of storylines. From when Shawn faded that knee injury when he was doing anything with Batista and Jericho was calling him out on it and everything, and Shawn was saying like, I'm fine and everything. And then they had the whole Jericho whatever, I think it was Geritron 5000 when he smashed his face into it and it busted his eye open and everything and did the whole eye injury thing. And then supposedly the reason they stopped using blood is because that match they had at Great American Bash when he was beating the hell out of Shawn Michaels and all that blood was all over his face and there's so much blood everywhere. I think Jericho said that's when Vince said that he was getting rid of blood or something like that. If I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I think that's what he said. And
that was when PG started too.
Yeah, and everything about this feud I thought was great. Jericho was a great heel, knowing the suit and tie Jericho to come out with that stupid ass walk. I hated that stupid walk he used to come out with, the little strut he used to come out with, and when he was the world champion and all that stuff. And Shawn Michaels, obviously they had a great ladder match at No Mercy. I think that was pretty much the end of the feud right there with that ladder match, right there. But I think it's top 10 for me. Oh man, that's tough. So I think on that one because.
Let's see. You got to think he punched his wife in the face. I thought that was another good. It was just an angle on a pay-per-view. Was that SummerSlam? I think
it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Jericho gave her a nice piece, man. She took it right on the lip. I remember she had a fat lip after that, but she was in the business. I'm sure she understood that Jericho could really punch her. And that was really dope. And I remember that ladder match, especially. I think it was No Mercy, or I can't remember. It was in the fall. Dude, when they were whipping each other with the buckle on the belt, like, listen, I know some of you young kids don't know about getting whipped and stuff. Listen, bro, I'm telling you, I've never been hit with a buckle in my life. I would have cried. I would have cried, bro. I would have been down and out. They were going hard in that match. I thought they both did an excellent job. They did big spots without going crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just thought it was so well done. And I love Jericho as like he's basically Nick Bockwinkel. If you guys don't go back and watch classic pro wrestling, the big words and all that stuff. I absolutely love this feud. It was one of the ones that carried me through when times were tough as a wrestling fan.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I was like, thank God for this. For this rivalry when it was going on, because it was definitely the best thing that WWE was putting out. Period. This was the first match that I jotted down. This is some of Chris Jericho's best work, which is saying something because the guy he's done a lot of great work. But this is like, I love this version of Jericho as well as a heel. And just how this whole thing started, because I remember this all started. It was the night after WrestleMania 24, and this whole thing actually started with the match between HBK and it was Batista, right? Because Batista was pissed that he retired Flair, and then here's pesky ass freaking Jericho coming along saying, "Oh, well, the only reason you won is because you're a dishonest man. You're faking that injury, da da da," and he had this holier than thou attitude. And this was just a very personal, at least it felt that way, which is what you want everything to feel like. There was you could feel the hatred between these two every time they locked up. All the matches were phenomenal, and all the matches, like the physicality in the match, was congruent with where they were at that stage in the rivalry. You know what I mean? So that the physicality and the escalation, just like whenever they would first start a match, it just got more intense, more heated, and like to the point where it felt like a fight, like a real fight. And of course, that's what they're going for.
You got to mention the match they had Unforgiven, like the unsanctioned match where Jericho didn't even beat Jericho. He just beat Jericho until he couldn't even go anymore, and the ref stopped the match.
Couldn't go, yeah.
Yeah, he was beating him up like sensibly. He just like Shawn Michaels had that look on his face, like he was shaking, and he had that look of like possessed look on his face, like he wanted to hurt this guy. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I remember that. The selling between the two of them was phenomenal. This is again like for me, like Punk and Cena, like in terms of like relatively modern WWE rivalries, like for me, Jericho HBK is right up there. It's one of my personal all-time favorite rivalries in WWE.
Let me just say that I actually went to the show the week before they had the match at No Mercy, the ladder match. I went to that Raw, and my grandma absolutely hates Chris Jericho with passion. She can't stand him. It's when he was calling people hypocrites, and he was using all those big words, and he came out and he sat on top of the ladder and he was cutting a promo, and my grandma was just losing her mind. Like she was cursing. Like the stuff she was saying, I can't even say on the show. It was terrible, man. Oh my god, relax, grandma. Just chill out, man. Just chill out. She hates him. She hates him so much. She doesn't even watch wrestling, but she hates Chris Jericho with a passion. So I was like, man, it was like
that's a compliment to his work.
Yeah, I thought it was cool how he was getting my grandma like invested in this, and she doesn't even watch wrestling. She was just at the show because she but like the fact that my grandma was actually like she hates this guy. She was like he doesn't have the right to call us this. Like he doesn't even know. And she just I'm sitting there like, oh my god, like she's losing her mind right now. I don't know. I think at one point I thought she was gonna jump over the rail and just try to go. Like she was saying all types of stuff, but I think it deserves a mention. I'm gonna have to come back to that one. I don't know if it's on my list. I love the feud. I really love the feud, but man, it's tough, man. That's tough.
Listen, if it's mentioned, it's considered good. I don't know if people are like losing their minds in the chat over some of the ones we didn't pick, but if it got mentioned, that's a good thing.
Yeah. I'm gonna write it down for the maybe. I gotta come back to that one, man. That's a good one to talk about. I mean, I think you said that was the feud at wrestling at the time, like 08. That was like the main thing on Monday Night Raw at the time. It was like the main thing that was like going on that you cared about. So I think this one we definitely come back to. Another rivalry I want to mention. What do you guys think about Undertaker and Shawn Michaels? What do you guys think about that? Would you consider that one to be on the top 10, or is that a maybe? Is that a no? How do you guys feel about that one?
I don't know. Is that should that be considered a rivalry? I mean, because like there really wasn't much connective tissue from one WrestleMania to the other. It's like they fought at 25. It wasn't like
we're talking about going back to the 90s. So they had a feud back in the 90s too, though.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess
Shawn was in the cage with. Here's my problem with their stuff. Their feud always felt secondary because it was interwoven with something else. It's similar to what I was saying with like the Hogan Macho Man. It's not that the rivalry or the feud's not memorable. I remember Shawn and Taker first ever Hell in a Cell. Those are the guys you want in there. But the story was what's going on with Kane and Taker, and what's Shawn gonna do because he keeps trying to sneak away with getting a title shot. And how did he wind up here? And then he fights Taker again, but it's still about Kane and Taker because Kane came out, chokeslammed him in the casket. It just never felt like a full glue until Shawn and Taker had that Royal Rumble moment. Then they were like, hey, let's book them in a match eventually against each other. Then you finally got the magic, but by then it was like Shawn's on his way out. It's kind of too late to continue doing it. And they were part-timers. I absolutely enjoyed the feud, but I don't think it's a top 10. And that was my number one WrestleMania match. So
yeah, I agree. I just good, but I don't think it needs to be on any top 10 list.
Okay, so what about Shawn Michaels and Triple H? What do you guys think about that one?
Oh God, this goes back to the showcase mode. Oh, that was the other match. It's good, but too long.
I was gonna say, yeah, I enjoyed this, but it was good. That's all I'll say. It was good. A little self-indulgent, like you said, as far as like the length of it, how much they stretched this whole thing out. I mean,
I think they're playing just to keep Shawn longer because Shawn said he was only going to work one match with Triple H and he was back to retirement. Yeah. And then Bruce and Vince talked to Shawn and they roped him in eventually like, listen, bud, you can keep working with Hunter as much as you want. Come on, stay.
And this was a feud that spanned, because there were times where, they would, have a cease in hostilities and then they just kickstarted like, a couple months later. Yeah, man. Because I wrote this down, but I was like, when I wrote it down, I'm like, I'm not sure.
I did not have that one down.
Because I enjoyed it, but yeah, I don't think I would. I wouldn't just knowing what we've talked about, at least for me and what I have jotted down, like what I would list. I can't see myself adding. I don't see this. I don't see that rivalry on par with what we've talked about. And the things that I've jotted down is my own personal faves. So I'd put it in an honorable mention, or just a mention. That's really about it.
Same. I don't think it's top 10, but it deserves to be talked about. There were some good matches in there. There were some good matches in there, but
what about in the comments we have Undertaker and Triple H? What do you guys think about Undertaker and Triple H?
oh hell no.
No, no.
Oh.
Not for me. Not for me personally. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's not
Rivalry,
right.
but it's not anything that
I do love all three of their matches at WrestleMania. I do think they had three good matches at WrestleMania, but they never really had. To me, they never really had a feud. You know what I mean? I feel like they were just thrown into WrestleMania matches just to have.
Yeah. The matches were good. I mean, it's not. Yeah, for me, I'm not thinking so much about the matches, but just like what was like the long term like animosity and that actual rivalry, and I just don't.
The animosity was that Taker retired Shawn and Triple H was trying to make up for it. But then at the same time, it was like the thing that Triple H probably hates the most. I guess it is true. Shawn's better than you. And I was just like, damn, this just makes me want to see Shawn versus Taker more than this. And I'm like,
yeah.
I did like the first match they had when the first match they had at 17, and they had the match at 27.
Yeah, that was a good match.
I mean, I liked all the matches. I mean, the matches were good. But,
I thought the match they had at 27 was good, and I liked how when Taker came back when he came back for the third match, and he was like, even though he won the match, he wasn't satisfied with the way he won. You know what I mean? Because Triple H beat him, he destroyed him in that match, but he wasn't satisfied with the way he won, stuff like that. And I liked how they did the stuff where Triple H he was saying no at first. Obviously he was gonna say it, but he was saying no at first, and he was saying, I'm not gonna be the one to extinguish that that flame. I'm not gonna end that era. I like that little line he said. Shawn Michaels was like, look, you're not gonna live vicariously through me to get the jobs that you couldn't get done at WrestleMania against Undertaker. So I like the little stuff they did like that, but the rivalry though, they never really had the great stories that for me to have an epic rivalry to be in the top 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for me, it just felt, when Undertaker and Triple H got involved with their stuff, it just felt too like me too. Like, HBK had his go at it. My turn. I'm Triple H. I got to have mine as well. And yeah, no, I wasn't nothing that occurred during this rivalry or their WrestleMania matches really storyline wise was compelling to me. I was like, yeah, I felt like you, Conrad. I'm like, I'd rather just see another HBK and the Undertaker match. It's like you're talking me out of even wanting to see this. The matches ended up being good. They were a tick below, the HBK matches, but they were fine. But yeah, I was never really all that emotionally invested in this whole storyline.
I got a sidebar thing that I wanted to mention too. You mentioned WrestleMania 17 with Triple H and Taker. That is one of my favorite ref bumps of all time because I want you to hit a timer next time you're watching it just to see how long the referee stays down in that entire match because it just turned into a brawl and the ref is knocked out as they brawled through the crowd and got back.
I remember, yeah.
And nobody came out to help him or anything. Tim White, I think, and he's just like, yo, help this man. He got hurt.
Yeah, he was down there for a hell of a long time. I remember that.
Just a random thought in my head. Sorry.
Yeah, so I saw that match not too long ago, actually.
Another one we have in the comments. I'm going to read one more in the comments. Edge versus John Cena. What do you guys think about Edge versus Cena?
Hell no.
Oh, yeah. What? No.
I did not.
That's a good one, man.
That was, to me,
I don't know if it's top 10, but it's definitely worthy of discussion. Yeah, man.
Yeah, definitely worth the mentions. Edge versus Cena.
You guys are gonna have to convince me then on this one. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you two talk about it then.
The story that they told, and from the fact you go back to when he cashed in Money in the Bank on Cena was like crazy, like because that was obviously the first time they cashed in, so nobody ever saw a comment like, what he cashed in on. Then obviously took the belt off him because they wanted him to fight Triple H at WrestleMania or whatever. But then they came back to it. The story they told, look, I was a little kid when this was going on, so when they were having their match in Boston at SummerSlam, when it was Cena versus John Cena, when it was John Cena versus Edge, right? And Cena was the challenger at the time, and Edge was the champion, and they were having the match in Cena's hometown. I begged my mom to order this pay-per-view. You had to order this pay-per-view. I had to witness John Cena win the title back. There's no way in my mind you're going to convince me that he was losing. And then the finish of that match, when Lita handed him his brass knuckles and he hit Cena in the back of his head and he won. Oh, dude, I thought I was gonna riot. I was like, I can't believe that he just lost this match. Like, this is crazy. And then they went on to have the TLC match, which is a great match. I love that's one of my favorite TLC matches. The one they had Unforgiven when he had him on top of the ladder, threw him off the top of the ladder into those tables. To me, I always liked the stuff they did because I always felt like the John Cena and Edge rivalry felt that this. I like the story and stuff that they did with it. You know, I think they did it in 06, and I think they came back to it. I think it was 09. I think it was 09, if I'm not mistaken, when they came back to it in 09. Me personally, I don't have it on my list, but I think it's one of John Cena's best rivalries that he's ever had. Besides, I think the CM Punk's number 1. I think this is number 2. I think this is number 2 rivalry.
Yeah, yeah. The biggest takeaway for me and why I think this rivalry is at least worth, having the discussion we're having is this was the feud that really made Edge that main event. Like it pushed him into the main event as a main event player, and he stayed there, which is rare, especially coming out of a feud with John Cena. For me, that was like the biggest takeaway. I mean, this was also just in terms of entertainment value. I thought the chemistry that they had with each other was really good, and there were definitely some memorable moments and segments. The whole live sex show, or whatever the hell that Edge and Lita got into, that was something else. I enjoyed this feud, but yeah, the matches were good. Not all of them, but most of them were good. And at the time, like for John Cena matches, they were a step above for sure. I mean, I'm a big fan of Edge. When I look back on this feud, I look at it more so for what it did to help catapult Edge than like I guess the storyline, But on a list of like top Cena feuds, this would be very close to the top. But yeah, I'm kind of debating in my head whether it deserves to be on. It probably doesn't deserve to be on all time.
I would have this feud at number 2, to be honest. I think Cena's top 3 rivalries are him and Orton, him and Edge, and him and CM Punk. I think CM Punk's number 1, Edge is second, and Orton's number 3.
Orton.
I hated that rivalry.
Orton and Cena?
Yeah.
Too much.
I like Batista and Cena, man. For as short as that was pretty damn. That was a good one.
That was fun.
See, it was too short for me though. It didn't play out long.
You know what hurts the Edge one for me and my soul though when I think about it sitting back? I think it was the fact that so he did all that stuff and he just kind of fell back. Like the coolest part of it was him helping Rob Van Dam win the title at ECW One Night Stand or whatever. That was super dope. Yeah. But after that, Edge kind of fell back into this rated RKO, and I'm like, oh, it's the monster of Triple H and John Cena at the time. And Edge knew I got to get to SmackDown and get these dudes immediately. I think the Taker feud was more appealing to me than that one, and that's just me. But
no, that was a good feud too. Yeah, that was
the Vicky Guerrero stuff. Oh man, that was good.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, but that all of that, like, cause I love Edge, and like all of that, it all kickstarted, from this feud. That's why, I'm saying like it wasn't really so much the matches and the storytelling so much, but I guess maybe just Edge's involvement and the significance of how it catapulted him into a higher position. But like you said, I mean, once leaving Raw and going to SmackDown, because that became his show. It really
Speaking of that, though, there was another one in the chat that somebody wanted me to mention, and it was Edge versus Matt Hardy. And I think that was one of the first things that really made me hate Edge. Like, even though I knew like wrestling was a work at the time and all that, to this day, like I still have like this little hatred in my heart for Edge. Anytime I see Lita, and I'm just like, oh, it's you. Whatever.
Still?
Yeah, I thought Lita and Matt Hardy were going to be together forever. Maybe that was just me being a sucker for love or whatever. I was like, oh, man, these two are great together. They're going to get married one day. It's going to be dope, man. Good for Matt Hardy. And then, Edge is supposed to be his boy. Like, I knew that back then. Like, y'all had the great ladder matches together. What do you mean Edge is banging your girl? And then
this definitely – I don't have this on my list, but I think obviously the feud was real. I mean, it was like real beef between the two. And the feud didn't really last long because obviously these two guys couldn't be on the same show, so they had to take Matt Hardy to SmackDown. But the feud was definitely real. I mean, the whole story, obviously, the whole story with Matt and Lita, they were together. Then she, Matt got hurt. Now she's on the road by herself, and she's kind of messing around with Edge. And then Matt Hardy gets, he comes from the crowd and he's beating up Edge, and he gets fired from WWE. Then Vince brings him back to WWE, and then they had their
Ring of Honor.
And they had their matches, and I remember specifically, specifically when they had that match at I think I'm forgetting that steel cage match when he did that big ass leg drop on top of the edges. I was like, oh crap, that leg drop was crazy. But
yeah, I wish you would take that one back.
I don't think
Yeah,
it's.
no.
I wouldn't put it as top 10 though. I wouldn't put it as top 10. I think obviously the heat and the stuff between them was obviously very real, and still to this day, I don't even know how they were able to work together to this day. I mean, I don't even know if I was a man and he stole my woman. I don't even know if we can't work together. Though. I'm sorry, that's just no. That's a problem.
To me, that's one of the slimiest, dirtiest things you could do to someone that you say is your boy. Like take their girl. You got to put hands on him. Like if I would have been hardcore Holly or someone backstage, like you got to beat him up, right? It's got to happen, bro. Like we'll lock the door. Vince and them won't get in. I got you. You got.
You know what though? But in the words of the almighty Snoop, it's like, hey man, your chick chose me. You know, it's like, hey, it's like what are you gonna do? It's like, hey, no, it was dirty, but hey, Lita made her choice. Edge didn't force that to happen.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm just saying.
No, I get the contrarian view of it. To me, I would never.
No, it was a shitty thing. I'm not. Yeah, no, it was. But I'm saying she's got just as much. Like, hey, your woman chooses somebody.
Let's be real. All guys have massive egos, right? And like nobody wants anybody stealing their woman. That's just like one of the things for guys that you just don't. And the fact that it's another guy that you know and you're friends with, that hits your soul even harder. Like, man, this guy, he's supposed to be my friend. He stole my girl, man.
But I'm also the first one to say this too. In wrestling, entertainment, you brought up Snoop. If you're dating someone who's a rapper, a wrestler, whatever, if they travel all the time for work, bro, dudes get lonely. You're out hanging with the bros. Hey, things get weird.
Stuff happens, and they were close too. And they were close. I mean, not to excuse it, but hey, I can understand how it happens. I guess I'll say that.
Yeah, you get lonely. Your girl's miles away. I'm not trying to click, scroll tonight. You right here. Hey,
right here. Yeah.
Everybody's raw dogs are human.
Wait, did you guys ever see what Matt Hardy told? Like he's a great manipulator of the internet, and when he did the story of how it all happened, and he had the cardboard cutout of Lita. Please tell me you've seen this on YouTube.
Yeah, I've seen that. I
have not seen that.
He had a cardboard cutout of Lita like in the bathroom, and his dog's running around, and he's telling the story. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna stay in here, and you're gonna smell crap all day because that's what you deserve."
Yeah. I know. I seen that.
And he told her to get out of the bed. He was like, "I told her you and would you have a broke neck or knee at the time?"
Yeah, he had a broken neck.
He was like, "Yeah, you and your broke neck, get the fuck out of my house." I was like, "Matt Hardy, you are the man."
But see, that's the thing, though. It's like, look, I get you're hurt, but like that was some immature ass shit.
No,
you know what I mean?
Video, yeah, but dude, he said like that was what happened. Like he reenacted like the exact stuff that happened. Like, the cardboard cutout in the bed. He was like, "You and your broke neck, get the fuck out."
Yeah, he was making a video of like he was telling like explaining to the fans like he was reacting to everything that happened from that night. So he was showing everything that happened.
Dude, Brian, I promise you, if you're ever bored one day, just type that in. You'll die laughing. I thought it was funny to me.
I'll check it out.
It's worth watching.
I didn't like this rivalry at all. The most entertaining parts of this feud was the stuff that was going on in real life behind the scenes.
It started off great, but the problem was Matt Hardy never capitalized on the momentum. That moment when Vince called him out and he handed him that microphone, he had to kill it. And he kind of just and it was just like, nope, never again. He probably said I'll never believe in him.
Yeah, that's what I've heard what happened to him. But this
I don't have that. I definitely don't have that on my list. Another one I want to mention. I don't know if you guys think about it. What do you guys think about Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio? What do you guys think about that feud?
Oh, with Dominic?
No, I'm talking about like their feud.
Oh,
their feud in general.
Well,
WCW was dope. I love the matches, but I don't. There was nothing compelling story with it.
I don't think they've ever really been given, whether WCW or WWE, any compelling angle story to get them to wrestle. When they wrestled, it was gold. But I mean, it's Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. Like that's just gonna happen. But no, I mean. No.
Dominic.
That was some ridiculous stuff, even by WWE standards.
You know what?
But it did introduce Vicky Guerrero to programming, and she became a fixture. That's like the only probably good thing that came out of it.
I hate storylines like that. Like
and
that
even
was,
that's
they were
debatable.
forcing it. And the tag problem was that they just did the exact same thing with Eddie and Chavo not too long before that. And I was just like, dude, you just did this kind of not too long ago with Eddie. And they were tag champs. They loved each other. Then
I think
jealousy.
they should. I think they should have just stuck with the fact that Eddie. I think he should have stuck with the fact that Eddie couldn't be Rey Mysterio. He was becoming obsessed with that. I think they just went based off that. It'd have been a lot better because obviously at WrestleMania, when he beat him at WrestleMania, they kind of started playing team with that. Then he turned on him, and when he pounded him to those steps, and he was just losing his mind. I think if they'd have stuck with that and just continued with like he's just becoming obsessed with not being able to beat this guy. Like this is the guy he can't beat, and it's driving him crazy. Like he's just going crazy. You know what I mean? When they added, Dominic.
That's a better. You just booked a more compelling storyline than what they presented us with the whole Dominic custody thing. That was just too far outside of. I couldn't buy into that. Like, come on, man. Like, you're gonna settle a custody issue in a freaking wrestling match? Like, I've been through custody battles when I was young. This ain't how this happens, partner. It's like I can't buy into this. Like, come on. That's like. No,
I commend them for trying
something.
I commend them for trying something new, something different. But it definitely didn't need this. It definitely didn't need this. I think
storylines with kids never end well. I always feel like even going back to who was it, Raven and Sandman? Like you can't. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once that happened, it's like okay, I you guys had me, and now you lost me. I can't buy into any of this. Whatever suspension of disbelief I had is gone.
The whole kid thing they definitely threw me off. I think, like I said, they should have just stuck with the whole, he's Eddie Guerrero just can't beat Rey Mysterio. This is that fact. Like he just can't beat Rey Mysterio. This is the guy he can't beat, and you just make him become obsessed with the same thing with Shawn Michaels when he couldn't beat Taker at WrestleMania. He became like obsessed with that fact. Yeah. They just make him become obsessed with the fact that he can't beat him, and then eventually you may have Guerrero because he did beat Rey Mysterio in that cage match, but then obviously their matches were magical. I don't think I've ever seen a bad match. I mean, these two together are just like they just you put them in the ring together and they're gonna have a tremendous match. It doesn't matter how long the match is. They have the match together. But I definitely don't have it on my list. But I thought it at least deserved to mention because of the classic matches and everything that they have. Definitely Rey Mysterio's probably the most memorable feud he's ever had in his career. So
Can I thought at least segue into one when you said the obsessed thing for one that I don't know if you're going to mention it. I don't know if it's on either of your lists, but I have a good one that we're waiting to talk about. Raven versus Tommy Dreamer as a storyline is something that I think is really, really good as far as how they told that story for the time. And they started to me the whole obsessed kind of angle with Raven was the jock at one point, even though or I'm sorry, not Raven. Tommy Dreamer was the jock at one point, and Raven was what was he, a fat kid at a camp or something? And Tommy,
he was the outcast kid.
Yeah, he was the weirdo. And then all of a sudden, Raven came back, and he was the hot shit grunge guy. Like, oh, I like this kid, blowing the hair out of his face like the emos from South Park. And he would cut the weird promos backstage, but Raven always beat Tommy Dreamer, no matter what. Tommy Dreamer could be in a cage match with him. He had him handcuffed to the cage, and Tommy is effing him up. Chair shots to the head. Tommy still found a way to lose because he was always an idiot. Like, Tommy, dude. And he's just like, no, more damage, more DDT. Tommy loses. DDT.
Done. Yeah.
Every time. I thought it was a really good feud for ECW and one that they can always tip their hat to, like, hey, we did that.
No, I agree. This was ECW had a couple of really good rivalries and feuds, but yeah, this is one that really and honestly, outside of how good it was and how well booked it was, I mean, this really was the feud that cemented and made Tommy Dreamer. This, and you're right. I mean, the guy, but that's part of Dreamer's character. Like he doesn't win very much. He's that baby face that always happens to get himself a little too heated and kind of slip on that banana peel. But he never loses. He never lost the fans though. With every one of those losses, like the fans still cared for him. They still gave a damn about Tommy. And Raven, just as a performer, like just a character performer, like just an actor, like his performance and his selling and his promos he was just captivating, man. Especially at that time, like you just weren't seeing storylines like that, back at that time, especially compared to what was going on with the WCW and in WWF. So this, yeah, I mean, this definitely, yeah, I mean, that's a good one, man. Not sure. I don't know if I'd put it on top 10 right now, but I definitely would put in the top 15 for sure. What you say?
I think it's a mention. Malik?
I think we have to come back to that one too. We have to write that down. I'm gonna write that down for that one to come back to because that's one I forgot about actually. I didn't even think about that one until you brought it up. So I'm glad you mentioned that one because
yeah, no, you basically hit on a lot of the ones that I wrote down. There's only a couple here that I still have written down.
There was another one I wanted to mention. I had to think about. I forgot what it was. I come on to you. It was in my head now. I can't remember it. You guys have anything you want to throw out? Any mentions? You have any mentions?
I was gonna say, Conrad, you said there was one that you were that you wanted to throw out that you were interested to see what we were gonna say about it.
Oh, I'm saving that for the end. That's my grand finale because I'm going off on a little rant too with that because that pertains.
All right, well,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No. I have a list of little ones that aren't on there, but I'm like, I think we should at least mention them to see what people would say.
All right, well, the one I'm going to throw out now is it's a recent one.
Oh no! Wait! You better not steal my thunder. Go ahead. What is it?
I think I know what you're talking about too.
You cannot have a top 10 all-time greatest rivalries without Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano.
All right, it's rant time then. Oh,
this has to be on the list. It has to. I don't care where. What's that?
The all-time greats, like greatest feuds of all time.
Oh, this is in the top 10.
Oh, absolutely. This is in the top 3, in my opinion. Maybe top 5 at least. This is like a masterclass of a wrestling storyline. And the tremendous thing about this whole rivalry is that you can actually trace this all the way back to at least 2015 to when Gargano and Ciampa were in NXT, not even under full contracts, wrestling as a tag team as enhancement guys, losing to some of the established teams. You can start there, or you can start when they were an established team. I'll take the long form. Everything that these guys have gone through when they were first in NXT, losing matches as a team, getting over it. Like, I was familiar with these guys already, and I was just happy to see them, whether they were losing or not. I just had in my head, like, these guys are going to get over because they're just too good not to. But you get this whole story of them coming into NXT together as a team, losing. You start to see them progress and win matches as a team, do DIY. You get to the Cruiserweight Classic, which is where the first domino starts to fall, where they have to compete against each other. And, I mean, just an amazing match. That was the first time in NXT.
That was a dope match.
An incredible match. And in that match, you can start to see the seeds were planted about that eventual, well, who's going to turn on the other. I mean, obviously, everybody thought it was going to be Ciampa since he was the one that lost. But, they planted that seed. It's a hard-fought match. And at the end, they kind of come back together again.
Oh, wait.
And it's like, okay.
Pause.
Okay, yeah.
There's an important part in that match, too. Listen, so I swear to God, if my wife was not getting ready for work right now, I would have her come in here. I explained this entire feud to her today because she was like, why do you love this feud so much? And I was like, do I need to? I bust out the iPad. I flipped open the cover like, do I need to show you how this started? I just went through and she was like, you got goosebumps. That's how I know a feud is good, if you get goosebumps talking about it. Brian talked about that Cruiserweight Classic, and I had to explain this to her when I showed her the New Orleans match because she didn't watch it with me. And we were sitting there, and I'm like, listen, when they sit next to each other like this happened already in another match to where that's like the, damn, buddy, we're down on our luck, but we're always together. And they do like the pal, we're sitting at the edge of the curb, and we ain't got nothing but each other right now. And this gives you that feel-good moment. And they did that in that Cruiserweight title match, and it comes back to play later. And I just wanted to make sure you mentioned that because that is a dope part of the story to me.
I actually had forgotten about that, so thank you for bringing it up. Which, again, points to why this needs to be on the list, because there's that callback. There are so many callbacks that occur in these matches.
Dude, this could be like a
build upon. What's that?
when we like bring up the little things, you could turn it into like a college class on what did you notice about storytelling with this that you should have paid attention to throughout.
They should teach this at NXT. Like if they ever start bringing in creative guys, like, hey, this is how you book a long form storyline, and just use this as an example, because it is, in my opinion, and the sad thing is, it doesn't look like we're going to get a proper end to it, at least anytime soon, because of Ciampa's neck surgery. Yeah, I'm not. Conrad, you can probably do this better than me. I'm just going to say that this is, as a rivalry in wrestling. Forget WWE, forget promotion. Just in wrestling, this is what dreams are made of when it comes to a rivalry in a pro wrestling environment. You've got two guys that you love. One goes bad, and it pains you to see them fight. You get so emotionally invested and wrapped up into what's going on with the both of them, to the point where then the hero starts to become the villain when Gargano starts to take it too far. And it's like there's so many layers. It's like a freaking onion, this thing.
It's a classic superhero tale. It's like a Marvel. Now I'm going off on something completely different. It's like Marvel and DC. Like in every villain, there is a piece of good, but in every good guy, there's also like a piece of a villain. I don't even know if I should use the word good guy or hero in it, but dude. So like when you go back to even their NXT New Orleans match, let me back it up before that even. So DIY is one of my favorite NXT tag teams. I was always behind them. I went to NXT Orlando, and I wanted them to win the tag belts again so bad. And I always pick DIY. When I do my preview and predictions, I was already doing my show at the time when this happened. And I'm always like, dude, I got to pick DIY. It's just, I'm picking with my heart. I'm like, I love DIY. They're going to win the belts back. And every freaking time the Revival or somebody soured on my plans, I got so freaking pissed. I hate the Authors of Pain because of them. Like the Authors of Pain would always beat them. I have a reaction video. That's probably one of my higher viewed videos because I was like, damn, the one time I pick Authors of Pain, they lose the tag belts. And I'm like throwing stuff. I'm like, come on, dude. But they won't be turned on him. And then he had to go off for that knee surgery. He wore the new knee brace. And it looks like the Stone Cold knee brace, the big gold one. And when he did the whole, he's sitting there, he's got the black eye. He's like, oh, don't hurt me, please. We're friends. And then Johnny, the stupid good guy, yeah, I shouldn't hit my friend with this. Come on, man. And they sit next to each other. And then Tommaso already had the knee brace. I was like, he fell for it. And Johnny moved. I was like, oh, yes, that is what a story is built up. And then he grabbed the knee brace, the same one that injured him, that started to tear them apart. And the reason he couldn't get to him, he uses it to wrench back on his face to tell the story of what happened out because you cost me my job and I'm back in NXT now. Then the matches after.
You know why that moment that you just mentioned about when they were sitting next to each other and you're thinking to yourself, because I was watching that too, and I'm like, Johnny, like, don't do the typical dumb babyface thing. Like, dude, come on, man. And when he went to hit Johnny and he did move, I was like, brilliant, because you were going, because they knew exactly what they were doing with that spot. Because they're like, everybody's going to be watching this thing, and here goes the dumb babyface is going to fall for the heel again. Because in my head, that's what I'm thinking too. I'm like, oh, here we go. But they usurped that, and they turned it around. And I was so, like, that moment in particular, the small moment, but that to me was like, that's the level of storytelling that is going on in NXT that needs to be on the main roster. You know what I mean? Because the babyfaces, they don't do that. They don't do the typically dumb babyface things. Gargano knew Ciampa. He was like, I don't trust you. Fool me once, shame on me. You ain't fooling me again. You know what I mean? And he let him get that sense, and he was like, nope.
And the weird thing about it is, I don't even think that won match of the year, did it? This year, didn't it? Do you remember what match did though? There was another match, and I voted for this one. I'm like, how can you guys not pick this match to be match of the year?
I think it was. Let me try to think back to the.
Look it up for me. I'm gonna tell the rest of it, dude.
Who's match of the year? What match are you talking about? Like the NXT match of the year?
Matches of the year. I don't think that match won, and it was on there. And I was like, what?
No, that had to have won.
This was 2018, right? 2018 or just
I swear, hold on. I'm looking up the NXT.
I think it might have been Almas and Gargano.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
just like, no, this. I get that people love that match. I'm like, dude, this is.
That was an amazing match
I
though.
just think the story.
Both are.
This story gets you more invested though. And that's why I was
Yeah.
like so hurt. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
The spitting on the ring for his wife, and they were best friends, and the pictures you see behind all of it, dude, it's so great. And then the Aleister Black Who Did It storyline, I love those. It reminded me of when Stone Cold got hit by the car, and it's like, all right, who did it? And you're playing like Clue, basically. You're like, oh, well, it wasn't you with the candle in the library. It must be you. And I still think there was more to that story even than they ever got to tell, because is Johnny really a bad guy, or is Johnny thinking what he's doing is right? And I had to explain all this to my wife, like, Batman looks like he's bad, but he's really not. He's a good guy. He's just trying to get to where he needs to because he's so focused on that. And he became obsessed, lost that other match. It's just a dope storyline. And I wanted to bring up one thing that has nothing to do with this. Somebody complained on a video I just watched yesterday saying that they blame Vince McMahon for why we're not getting this NXT TakeOver match, because they believe he didn't consult Triple H about what was going on, or Tommaso would have never been in that spot, period, to be up on the main roster for it. Do you guys blame Vince McMahon for why we're not getting this match? Is it the stupidity of them not seeing what was going on with the guy first? Is it Tommaso's fault for going too hard in these matches? I mean, what? It sucks, dude. Like, I was in tears when I found out we weren't getting this match. I'm like, dude, and
I don't blame Vince for it, because it's like injuries happen, you know what I mean? And from what I've heard that this has been like a nagging injury going on for a couple months now too. So I don't know if it was as serious as it was until he got called up. But I think
let me frame it better for how he worded it. You knew going in that he was already hurt. Why did you call him up? If you would have consulted Triple H, I think Triple H would have told you, listen, this guy's neck is banged up. Let's not do it. I'll give you 2 of the 4, but for right now, keep him out because I really need this main match to happen. Triple H already knew where TakeOver was going at that point.
Right. That's true.
I just think it's crazy. And I was like, man, he brings up a good point about this. And I won't even say what he said. Vince McMahon has to go. And he said, I don't care how it's done. It has to have, like, he was going off about it. And I thought it was funny. Brian.
Yeah, I'm not gonna blame anyone for the injuries.
But he made it worse, though, is what he was saying. He said Vince could have prevented all of this from happening, and now he's just ruined this NXT TakeOver, basically.
Well, I don't think he ruined it. I don't agree with what he did, with what McMahon did by interrupting the NXT programs that were going on, especially with the champions. Like taking Aleister, taking Ricochet, that's fine. They weren't heavily involved with anything.
Aleister's ready anyway.
Right, but to pull Gargano and Ciampa. And for me, the biggest thing is the fact that he didn't. And again, if this is true, because I read the same stuff that you guys did. The fact that this was something Vince did on his own without even notifying Triple H about it happening. That's concerning, and that's something that I wish he hadn't have done. But I mean, I wish Vince McMahon hadn't done a lot of things that just kind of fits within his wheelhouse. It was disappointing, but it's like, oh, all right, here we go. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely was opposed to the decision of it, because yeah, it not ruined, but it threw a pretty big monkey wrench into their plans, which is unfortunate.
To put a positive little bow on this, I did hear that they already have plans for Ciampa when he gets back, for what they're going to do with him.
Well, I hope so. I mean,
neck injury, neck injury.
I'll believe it when I see it.
That neck. I feel bad for the guy.
Are we talking about on the main roster or the NXT?
I guess they said that the main roster has a plan already for Tommaso when he comes back. Because I think there's some guilt a little bit here, what happened and how this all went down, because you debuted them in Louisiana in front of a dead crowd that sucked. And now I think people on the main roster are starting to like Ricochet, Aleister, and all them. They're like, no, we want those dudes. I don't want to see Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. No offense to those guys, but they want to see new and fresh.
Yeah, the way that whole thing went down, like you said, I mean,
obviously
there was no forethought put into why he did what he did, by calling those 4 up. He just And and it's, I mean, just not even giving Triple H the heads up and being like, hey, by the way, this is what I'm planning to do with these NXT cats.
It just makes you wonder how wasn't the neck thing mentioned, and Triple H already knew about it. Like he was trying to spare him, hence why they were in the Dusty Classic together as a team.
Right. So this has been reported, the fact that Triple H knew about this neck injury. I mean,
Triple H was already going in. That's why he said you guys will be a team. Johnny can do most of the work in the match. Like,
okay.
Sorry, spoiler alert if you didn't watch NXT this week. Johnny was in the ring most of the match that they won, and it was just like, dang, dude, he must have known already that his neck was hurting. And I thought it was going to be something with his leg when they were talking about an injury from that match with the Bar. And you put him in there with two of the hardest hitting dudes in WWE.
Yeah, I thought it was a leg thing too. Like when Sheamus awkwardly fell on his knee, I thought that was what the injury was.
Dude, I cried. I jumped up. I was like, he's done.
Yeah, it's unfortunate all the way around. I mean, the injury, the fact.
I can't blame one person for injury. The injury is part of it. It happens. You know what I mean? Something that happens now. I don't know if Vince knew about. He might not even know. I mean, I don't know the whole story behind that. Obviously, Triple H knew, but he might not even knew. So I mean, obviously, if he consulted Triple H, then Triple H is gonna say, "Hey, man, this guy's next. I need this guy for my takeover. He's hurt, man. You can't use this guy or something like that." But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me. You said that they have plans for him to come back up. I don't know, man. I don't really see. It's hard for me to believe that they're going to do anything with the NXT guys because you see people come from NXT and then now you just forget about they're just not even important to the main roster anymore. I mean, look at somebody like Nakamura. Like I just get to the point now. I feel like I don't even care about him anymore, and it's sad to say that because in NXT, I'm like, man, this guy's he's gonna do great things on the main roster. And he comes up to the main roster now. He's kind of like, oh, well, now you kind of just like, oh, well, there's Nakamura now.
I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked at how Nakamura is right now. I mean, that's exactly Nakamura's current situation is exactly what I thought was going to happen to him once he left NXT. It's unfortunate and it sucks, but I've been watching WWE long enough, and I've seen how McMahon books, people of color, let alone minorities or other ethnicities who don't speak English. I mean. He always had that short shelf life, I thought. And then I just found out that he's on the kickoff show with Rusev. I just found out this morning, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's how the mighty have fallen.
Was that who wrote that tweet too? Someone in my group posted a tweet that said, "Good thing I got on Twitter today to find out I have a match on the kickoff show." I was like, dude, what is going on in this company that is? I'm sorry, dude. I'm starting to think it's time. I'm sorry, Vince. I love you. I'm going to cry when something happens to Vince McMahon. I promise you. Like the day when they ring the 10 bells for him, I'm probably going to cry. Or he goes in the Hall of Fame. Like, dang, dude, Vince McMahon gave me my entire childhood up into my 30s and 40s. Like, I love this dude. But at the same token, bro, hang him up, man.
McMahon's going to outlive the three of us, brother. What you talking about?
Yeah.
Bring me I don't know. I mean, I think obviously, I ain't worried about wrestling going on because Triple H is going to take over, and we see what he does in NXT. So it gives me, good. It gives me good things for the future that I see. But I mean, there are things I just think Vince, his mindset is just different from Triple H. You know what I mean? They're just two different thinkers, and you can tell by looking if you watch NXT or even if you watch 205 Live. If you watch,
that's what I'm saying. Like it's night and day. I mean, you can see the difference in philosophy and creative. Like, I mean, it's very apparent.
I mean, that's why Triple H is a genius when it comes to this stuff. You're talking about the champ and stuff. You're just breaking it all down. I mean, look at the whole feud. This has been going on since 2016 between these guys. And it's still like the fact that it's been going on for about 3 years and you still care about this says a lot. There are so many feuds that we see now on the main roster that, last for maybe 3 months and you're already tired of it. Like, by the time they did the whole AJ Styles Nakamura thing, by the time the second match, I was kind of like, I don't even care about this feud anymore.
Yeah, but
that was a match that I wanted to see. Like, oh man, when Nakamura comes up, I can't wait for him to work with AJ Styles. And then they got together and then just did the whole story. It was dead. Everything was dead about it.
I know there's a bunch of people in the live chat, but Brian said something really great on his first podcast that I ever heard when they were talking about creative and when creative says they have nothing for you, because a lot of people say that with Asuka, Nakamura, and wrestlers like that, like, well, we've got nothing for you. And it's like, no, dude, don't fire the wrestler or tell them that you've got nothing for them. Fire creative, dude. They're the ones who can't come up with any ideas. That's your job.
Exactly.
Like,
it's the same thing. Same thing with the Miz back when he was doing Hot Talk SmackDown. He was the Intercontinental Champion, and then creative said, "Well, you're not on the show today." Like I'm the Intercontinental Champion. How am I not on the show? Like, what do you mean you have nothing for me? That's when he went on Talk and Smack and just did all that whole rant. Whatever. It's like you can't not have not a champion not on the show. That's what I'm saying. Like, you know,
the brand would work if you honored it.
Yeah.
And it's like they have champions. That's why, you know, a lot of people were happy about Samoa Joe winning the championship, which I was too. But now I'm like, okay, now that he's a champion, are they going to do something with him, or is he just going to be like the United States champion, where it's kind of like, oh, it doesn't even feel important to the show anymore? You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, it's all about the follow-up. I mean, it's the same thing with the women's tag team titles. I remember, Conrad, I know you weren't all that enthused about it, and neither was I, because I'm like, yeah, oh, great, another championship that will probably be an afterthought a month after they establish it.
Hold on, though. WrestleMania 36 is going to be in Tampa in the Buccaneers Arena at RJ Stadium. Now, listen, if you don't have Kairi Sane and Io Shirai fight them for those tag belts, then I don't care who the champions are. Either way, Kairi Sane needs to come out in a pirate ship. That's the only thing I thought about when they announced it. And I thought with a little telescope, like, yeah, this could be dope. I'm like, that was the entrance I thought of in my head. I'm like, she's doing this entrance to open up WrestleMania.
That would be dope. That would be dope.
You know how they have the flag on the ship? They can even have like a Japanese flag at the top of the ship and waving like stuff like that. It'd be dope.
Yeah, then they'll have Vince out there shooting it down or trying to be funny with JBL. Shut up.
All right, so back to Gargano and Ciampa. We were talking about the feud. You guys, anything? Something else you want to say? Something else you guys want to say?
No, if you say it's not on there, it's over. Override. It's happening. It's going on that list. I'm not letting.
It's got the vote between Conrad and myself. I mean, this has to be on the list. I'm gonna. Yeah, it's got to be on the list.
Actually, no. I want to hear you say something about this.
Yeah, let me write it down real quick. We only got 4 on the list. This is number 4 too. So
we only put 4.
Yeah, the only 3 we have are Austin and Vince, Brett and HBK, and CM Punk and John Cena. And we have a lot of mentions. We have a lot of mentions that you guys want to come back to. So.
Do you have any more that you guys want to bring up that haven't been brought up? Because if not, I'm going to just run through these other ones that I have, and we could just keep it brief, I guess, about them.
There are a couple that aren't on my list, but I thought, you know, I like the feuds that they did with them. What are some ones that you want to mention, Conrad?
Let me start from the bottom. We did Bailey, Sasha. I have Jake the Snake, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat as one.
Okay. I like that one.
Super dope. The DDT on the ground and the fluid coming out of like Ricky the Dragon. That was a really good story, I thought, at one point. Is it top 10? No, I just thought it should be mentioned. Macho Man Ricky Steamboat was another one I had on here as a mention. Is it top?
I like that one too.
No. Great match though. But
great match, yeah.
Ric Flair and Sting.
Yeah, that's one I was going to mention too. That was one I was going to mention, Ric Flair and Sting. I thought that deserved to be mentioned because I don't know how you guys feel about that one.
Yeah, I had thought about that one myself.
And that goes back to like 88 to the last Nitro.
Yeah.
I think they fought TNA too, didn't they?
They did.
Oh man, Ric Flair fighting in his freaking clothes he wears outside. Oh,
I think that's worth. Yeah, I mean that's a historic feud, and again, I mean the matches were good, probably some of the best of Sting's career at that point, especially. And I mean that made coming out of it. I mean, Sting was already a big star, but like coming out of that made Sting.
That
elevated him in a way that he wasn't prior, which is what Ric Flair was really good at back in the day. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
So you want to write that down as the maybes? We'll come back to that one.
Hold on, I just thought of another one too while we were thinking of that.
Write that down as the maybes.
I just thought of Kevin Sullivan, Chris Benoit.
That wouldn't be on my list, no. I mean,
wait a minute. Do you know the story?
I know the whole story behind it, but it still wouldn't make my list.
Oh, dude, I thought that was good. And it started with Brian Pillman. Okay, Booker, man. I was like, yo, what's wrong with this dude? I thought Pillman was crazy back then.
Yeah.
Losing it.
I know.
Booked his own divorce. This is crazy that we're not talking about this. Like the dude was like, yeah, you're gonna steal my wife.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, he was married to what was it? Yeah. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be on a top 10 for me. But memorable for sure.
All right, I got one that's a three-way feud, which you don't see too many of. The Hardys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys.
See, yeah, okay, all right.
Because there were table matches between all three. It was kind of like interwoven once again. Like,
it was. That is, yeah. It's rare to see that between three teams actually. That's a good one. That's a good one to bring up because I look back on those matches, and of course the matches were all dope as hell. But was there much of? I mean, you have to refresh my memory. Was there much like connective tissue between those matches and those occurrences? Like, was it?
I mean, some of it was Bubba Ray having the obsession with putting women through tables at
right.
one. Edge and Christian lying about the tag belts and the conquistadors angle, which I love absolutely. I'm trying to think of who else. We said the Dudleys. You had the Hardy Boys falling out from it. There was a lot of good stuff. Then they got back. I don't know if it's top 10. I think that was just a mention too. Maybe looking at it now. Like,
But it's good that you brought it up at least.
Sami Zayn and Kevin Steen was another one that I don't know if people like it. I feel weird about this. Like I feel like you're either gonna have people who love it or people who hate it. What do you guys think of?
Are you talking about their NXT feud or
both?
I both
about WWE NXT period since they've been rivals. Are you?
I've got Sami Zayn and Owens. I wrote that one down because it's so good. I mean, these guys have been working together for so long. You know what I mean? It's like this is like one of those rivalries where it's like you can always come back to this. Whenever you want, and you can constantly switch the roles. I mean, these guys always produce and always put on incredible matches against one another. What I wrote down specifically, because especially when we found just kind of sticking within like in WWE umbrella, was just the stuff they did in NXT. I thought was really, really good, and it was brief, but I just remember when he turned on Sammy and like their matches that they had, like there was just again the raw emotion and the hatred, like it really kind of came through whenever they locked up with one another. And when Owens won the belt for that first time, because it was that ref stoppage, because he kept power bombing Sammy, and the refs were like, I mean, the sell job that Zayn did on that, it had me thinking like, damn, just like he's okay, like for real. Like
I considered the best seller since Rey Mysterio for how sympathetic his bumps are. I don't like concussion part of it, but it ropes me in. I know some people be like, I hate that, but dude, when he took those bumps, and the worst part was the story of him finally getting the NXT title was great. His buddy was there, and you didn't know what to think of Kevin at the time. You're like, well, he didn't really work as a heel or a face against CJ Parker. It was kind of just a match.
Yeah.
His nose was already bleeding and stuff, and it was just like, man, he slammed him down like, oh, you piece of shit. Like, you really just did this to your boy, and you know what he's went through this entire time? And he was just like, yeah, I'm done with you. You're getting power bombed on this apron.
Yeah.
And then he took it was like taking your girl. Like, he took the one thing he finally got. He's like, yes, I finally got a date with the girl. He's like, no, you don't. I'm taking this. See you later, bud.
After he had been, because even the rivalry they had with Neville to get that NXT championship, I mean, he kept coming up short, Zayn did, so many times until he finally won it. And then he does. And I think he only had it for what?
He had like 2 minutes of happiness.
And then because Owens, he won it right after, like as soon as they got put in that match.
He injured him, and then he went into his first match was the title defense. It was like, damn, you just got powerbombed to death, dude.
Yeah.
And then Owens went to the main roster, and they were like, see ya.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed that initial feud between those two, and then of course it carried on into the main roster. Even that was like the one bit of connectivity between NXT and the main roster that they actually had and established. So I give them props for that.
All I'm trying to see. I only got 4 more matches that I've written down. So Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar was one that
I got that one.
next to.
That's
Yeah,
what
I
I
wrote
was
that
going to
one down too.
That's what I was going to mention too. Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar. Definitely, I think definitely Brock Lesnar's best feud that he's been in. Kurt Angle's one of his best. The matches that obviously the two amateur backgrounds that they both have are tremendous. These two in the ring are great together in the ring. I don't know if you guys remember the Iron Man match they had, but I love the Iron Man match that they had on SmackDown.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah,
Hell yeah. That's one of my favorite SmackDown matches still to this day.
So I mean, I loved the story between the two. The fact that Brock is a legit wrestler, but Kurt Angle is an Olympic gold medalist. You have somebody who can legit out wrestle Brock Lesnar at his side. You know what I mean? So, I definitely think it deserved one of the mentions. It was on my list of one of the mentions. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I got it on my list too. That was one of the ones that I wrote down.
Yeah, I think it would be on my lower half of the top 10. But yeah, I'm definitely down with Kurt and Brock. I think.
All right, so I mentioned that for a mention. So,
next one I had was Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit. I thought that was a super good feud for two guys who could really wrestle. And I thought Benoit could hang with him in the pro wrestling element of the ring. I just hate everything with Benoit. I hate bringing up his name so much, but he was one of my favorites of all time.
That match they had at the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble 03.
What was that? 03? Yes, dude, that was really good. I love the WrestleMania 17 match and the Backlash Ultimate Submission match. I think that's what it was called.
Yeah, I think I don't. You gotta, Connor. You might have to remind me. Like, did they actually have an actual feud though that lasted maybe for a while? Or just...
Come on, Brian. I know you remember him sticking the medals down his pants. He stole his gold medals. They had a feud.
Yeah, they did. They did, and this was a great feud. I don't know. It's hard for me to, like you. I mean, you mentioned it. It's hard for me to talk, about Benoit. Because I mean, there are just some things more important. I don't care how good of a wrestler he was. I was like one of his. I love Benoit when he was doing his thing, and So yes, this was a good feud, and yes, Chris Benoit was one of the best of all time. I wouldn't want to see this on a list of top 10 rivalries though.
All right, I just threw it out there because I think it's one people forget about, and then I got
no, you're right. It was good. It's good.
I got 2 more, then I'll rest my case. All right, I have The Rock and Mankind on here. I don't know how people feel about it. I hear it talked about all the time. Is it a top 10 worthy rivalry though?
I think it's a great feud that they had. Top 10. That's hard. I mean, obviously, when you think of The Rock and Mankind, I think you think about the match at the Royal Rumble when he's beating those chairs, when he got them handcuffed. Those chairs.
Deadly Games, though. I think Deadly Games is one of their best written single shows in the night. They got me. Vince Russo, that is probably the best thing you ever wrote, bro. So if you ever wanted to know, like, what's your greatest thing you should put on a resume, show them that, because I thought that whole tournament sucked at one point where I was like, dude, no one cares about Jeff Jarrett and all this stuff. But once it got to the end and I realized he fooled me throughout the entire night, like, I'm like, they tried to screw The Rock. My man, The Rock got him, and then The Rock puts him in the sharpshooter, which was a little bit weak looking back at it now because they've overdone that spot. But it was really good, I thought, how they portrayed it and set it up like, Rock was our guy the whole time and not Mick Foley. And Mankind looked like the broken down little kid, like, Dad, I thought you loved me. Shut up. And then they just dogged him after, like he was the piece of crap.
I really enjoyed their feud, but yeah, I mean, I
actually hated that match at St. Valentine's Day Massacre when I did my review on it. I thought I was like, this should have been so much better than it was. There were some matches that were kind of like, that stunk.
Yeah,
whatever.
I enjoyed this. For me, like, this wasn't anything that. I wouldn't have mentioned this for a top 10. I don't think it was at that level to be on a top 10 list for feuds all time. If we're taking WWE, but I enjoyed it though. I enjoyed it. How about this one? Oh, you got one? Okay, go ahead.
I got one more, then I'm done. I don't know if we classify this as a one-on-one or a group versus a person. NWO and Sting.
I was wondering if somebody's going to bring up NWO.
The NWO and Sting. Actually, I'm sorry. I got one more after this, too. I have one that I starred because I didn't know if it would count, technically. NWO go first.
NWO and Sting.
Now, Brian, I know this is at the height of your fandom, probably like, oh yeah.
Yeah, but the thing was, like, I was much more in the WWF than the WCW at the time. Although, you know,
dude, I watched WWF when it was bad. Like, like, what did he just say? You fools, better be able to. I'm like, oh, great. Dude,
man, this is a
great story where Sting got blamed.
Yeah.
Everything, and then he disappears and turns into the Crow character. And they jump him. They come out with fake Stings, which I don't even know how some of the time people didn't realize Kevin Nash was Sting, because I'm like, that dude's 7 foot tall, bro. How does nobody? That's Sting, and I'm like, shut up, Tony Schiavone, you idiot. Like,
yeah, you know, this was really good, and Sting was like the perfect foil for the NWO, like perfect, right? I mean, because he was like the heart of WCW, you know, like he was their guy, and I think like when I look back on that rivalry, it's like it was so much potential in there, and there was a lot of good things in that feud, but like I mean,
does that shitty
it didn't
hurt it? Is that
right? That yeah, like I go back to like anytime they had to like get physical like in a match or whatever, and that match in particular, it's almost like they got in their own way. Like you had that on a silver platter, like Sting was just red, molten, just hot, like the hottest thing in that company, going up against Hogan. Like that should have been like, get out of the way. Like you did everything right to set that whole scene up, and you just had to go in with that lame ass finish, and it kind of undercut a lot of all the good work that they did leading up there. That's like for me like the biggest, like one of the biggest blights or stains on that entire thing. But there's no denying that the work they did to get there was some entertaining shit. The best stuff that WCW was doing at the time, for sure, probably. At least for me. So I mean, I almost like just historically, it might need to be on the list, because I mean, it was. That was a historic feud.
What do you think, Malik?
I'm thinking. Hold on. Yeah.
It told the baseball.
It's tough because I'm looking at the mentions that we still gotta go back through, and I'm like, man, because we got let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got 4 written down. We got to fill 6 spots up. We got 10 mentions that we gotta go back to. So
we're gonna do the elimination round. Don't worry. That's when it gets fun.
So I don't know. You guys, I don't know. What was the other mention you wanted to throw out, Brian? You said you had one more.
Well, Conrad, you said you had one more, right?
Yeah. Well, mine's gonna be like a take the cake one. If this is gonna take, I think it's WWF versus WCW, and I have ECW written next to it. I think that Monday Night Wars is technically a rivalry with Paul Heyman, Eric Bischoff, and Vince McMahon at the helms of their wrestling company. I think that's a story. I know they never had a match, and they're not wrestlers per se, but they all were taking stuff from each other at that time, whether it was talent who was already over, Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, others who went to WWF eventually and became superstars there, or WCW and how they stole Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. I just thought that was so cool back then. And then ECW got freaking taken for all their storylines, dude. ECW did a lot of stuff first. Sorry, Vince Russo. And then you kind of like stole it, and then WWE'd it, or WWF did at the time. Like, all right, this is cool. It's not a cross, it's a symbol. It's like, oh, okay, okay. Stephanie's hanging from a symbol. They took a lot of stuff from each other, but that's a cop-out one though. So,
but I give you points for creativity of trying to include that in this list of worked rivalries and stuff. But that's a good one. It is true. It is true.
Sorry, is that too cheap? That's cheap, probably, right? We should save it for.
No, that's definitely a rivalry. When you talk about rivalry, they were competing against each other. So I mean, you're competing to see who the better show is. So I mean, obviously that's definitely
at that time people were comparing all of them against each other. So it's like, dude,
yeah, but that's like a real rivalry. You know what I mean? It was like the stuff we're talking about is the scripted variety. I just have one more to throw out real quick to see, gauge your guys, thoughts. Owen Hart versus Brett.
I kicked you out of your leg. Yes.
Damn, I forgot about that one. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I forgot about that one.
Yo, dude,
that.
listen, I was thinking Owen and Brett. That's when all those other weird ones started to creep in my head. I'm like, is that like as good as Benoit and Angle? And that's why I started getting into like the deeper ones, because Owen and Brett told a dope story too, though, of like, I'm not gonna fight my brother. The whole Survivor Series, Owen's the only one to get eliminated, and he's pissed. That was
the storytelling in that feud was just really, really good. And of course you knew the work was gonna be good with those two. But I mean, they got just the way that they got all the other members of the Hart family in on this whole thing, like for me, because everybody says like, wrestling's that middle soap opera, but this was about as soap opera as it gets for pro wrestling. But it was done probably about some of the best way you can go about doing it, because everybody's motives felt genuine. You could buy into why Owen was feeling the way that he was. Brett was, the reluctant brother. I don't want to fight you, Owen, da-da-da. Like everything that unraveled as the story went just made sense. And yeah, like it was one of my favorites. And then, like I said, I mean, the work, you're always going to get good matches from these two, especially when these two are going at each other. So I just want to throw that out there to see what you guys thought about that one.
Malik.
Damn, dude, he kind of caught me on that one.
Yeah, that was a little uppercut before we were about to end this and narrow down the list. He was like, put that on there.
I forgot about that one, man. I forgot about the storytelling. Obviously, was great what they did. I actually heard a story. I actually heard a story with Brett saying that I can't remember what interview it was, but he was saying like, he wanted people to believe that him and Owen really hate each other, even like the family. So like when they would get to like family get-togethers, whatever, like him and Owen wouldn't talk to each other. They wouldn't speak to each other. They sit on opposite sides of the table. Like they wouldn't be around each other. Like there were points where he said like people in their family were kind of like, "Dude, you guys all right? What's going on with you?" And he was like, "No, man. Like they're just trying to like plant like they're making it when they want to make it seem so real. That's like crazy, man." So
that's
a good one, man.
Yeah,
that's gotta be in the mentions. It's gotta be in the mentions. We gotta mention that one. It's gotta be in the mentions.
Yeah, put it in the mentions. Stu would have probably put him in a chokehold if they didn't make it look real.
I know, right? Everything they did look real. That man, I love Bret Hart.
I love that family was great at wrestling. Did you guys know that Owen Hart was not supposed to be the original person for that storyline?
Yeah, it was. What was it? Was it Bruce? It was Bruce, right? Yeah.
They said Bruce always didn't like Bret after because Bret was the one who picked Owen.
Owen, yeah.
He knew he could have better matches than Owen. So I think, and I think when he mentioned it to Bruce, somebody he said, "Oh yeah, you know what? You're right. That would be better. So let's do that one." And Bruce
because Bret's one of us. He knows. He's like, "Come on, we're gonna do this. Let's do this the right way." It's like you got to give me Owen, yo.
And Owen paid his dues at that point. Like he was in that New Heart Foundation. He wore some bad stuff. He did his time.
He did his time. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, is there anything else you got? I'm trying to think before I don't want to forget anything. I want to make sure we got all the good stuff. I'm trying to think back as far as I can think back.
Did we say New Blood versus Millionaires Club?
No, you didn't say
that.
I got nothing that I can think of off the top. Brian looks like he's got something.
I got one. It's not top 10 worthy, but I got to mention it just because he's my boy and I just love him to death. And I've always been a peep. Christian and Randy Orton. Just for the simple fact that Christian finally won the world title for as brief as it was, and I love Christian. He's always one of my favorites, and I thought this was a very entertaining feud that they had. But like I said, I'm just mentioning it just because I don't think it was at that level of being on the top 10.
No, yeah, I love that feud too. That was another good feud. Was that going under in the Punk and
Cena? Yeah, that was going on SmackDown.
That was another showcase one. He's slipping in some WWE promotion in here. 2K.
Unintentional.
No, I like that though. Even the whole didn't he spit on Randy for one? And
yeah. Like this is a fun feud, and it for me like it was the perfect length. It didn't overstay its welcome, and I mean of course it ended the way of course Randy Orton was going to go over at the end, but I thought they worked well together.
I was pissed when Christian lost that title.
Yeah, me too.
And
dude, that was like 5 days after you won it. I was like, whoa, he just lost the belt. Like, it's crazy. And I said it too. I was watching SmackDown and they had they were coming out and they were doing the promo, and they announced Teddy Long announced they were going to have the match. Like, he's losing the match. He's not winning. I said, like, before the match, I was like, oh my God, he's going to lose the belt already.
That was like me, you, and Kyron were talking last week offline about it, and we said the thing about Zack Ryder. I said if Zack Ryder comes out on Monday Night Raw tomorrow with the title, he's losing the belt. And Miz came out, I'm like, it's over, man. Zack, done, man.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap. But at least he got his moment. He got his WrestleMania moment.
I thought the thing with Razor was sweet too. How Razor put the belt on him as a kid at WrestleMania. I think it was 10 or something. He put the belt over him, and then he got to do it to him. That was kind of dope.
What about another one I want to mention? It's not a top 10, but what do you guys think about Undertaker and Batista's feud? I don't think it's top 10, but I liked what they did with that feud.
I like that. I love that feud. It's not a top 10 for me, but they worked surprisingly well together. I remember when they first started that program, I was like, oh, this isn't gonna. I don't want to see this. But their matches were really good. They had really good chemistry with one another. So I enjoyed that I enjoyed that feud, that rivalry. Surprisingly good in-ring chemistry, but I wouldn't put it. It's not for me. It's not a top 10.
Same. I don't think there's any Batista feuds that are top 10. Batista always exceeded my expectations, though, with a lot of people like Cena. We mentioned earlier, Taker, Triple H. I'm like, man, I thought he was gonna be way worse than this. It was. I think
the reason I can't put. I don't like the way it ended with the whole Hell in a Cell and then the Edge thing. And Edge came out and like they never. That's basically how the feud ended between the guys. When Edge came out and he attacked Undertaker and Batista. So it was kind of like the feud didn't end with something that it should have ended with. You know what I mean? So I mean,
it was because it was a cog in the wheel to a bigger storyline, and you're like, well, is that really a rival? You know?
Right, but I think it should have had a big because you had Batista lose at WrestleMania, but then you had the two draws. Remember, because they had a draw in the Last Man Standing match, then they had the draw in the Steel Cage match, and then Batista beat him. Batista beat Taker. I think it was Cyber Sunday. I think it was. The Hell in a Cell match was like the rubber match. Like, all right, this is the last. You have two draws, one to each. So this is like the rubber match. I just felt like it should have had a clear winner. You know what I mean? I understand
they probably did that just with maybe the intention of, hey, one day we can circle back around to this and try to maybe kind of figure out, okay, who's going to get which it would be Undertaker. Undertaker would eventually probably come out on top, but Batista, he left not too long after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they deserve to mention. I really like that feud. That's probably one of the real Batista feuds that I really got into. His feuds never seemed like they really lasted long, to be honest. I mean, his Triple H feud didn't last long. After he beat him 3 times, he left, went to SmackDown. John Cena thing didn't really last long enough for me, at least. I mean, like they had the one match, and then he broke his neck. Then they came back to when he was a heel, and then he left right after that feud. So I mean, I think Batista's feuds never really lasted long enough. Even with Orton, like he never really had a real feud with Orton either. Like they start a feud and they have a match, and then they're like, all right, we're going away from this. So it's like, but now this is the hard part. And now we got to start cutting some of these out. So we got 11 mentions we got to go through, and we have 6 spots we got to fill. So far on the list, we have Austin and Vince, HBK, Brett, CM Punk, John Cena, and Ciampa and Gargano. Those are the 4. You guys comfortable with that 4 so far?
Hell yeah, I'm comfortable with those 4.
Wait, what did you say? You said Austin, Vince, Ciampa, Gargano,
HBK and Brett, and CM Punk and John Cena.
All right, yeah, cool.
So now we got to go through these mentions. Let's go back to Hogan and Andre. That was the first mention we had written down. Is Hogan and Andre top 10? Me personally, I think it has to be because of what it did for wrestling and everything that happened with it. I think they told a great story with it. Obviously, the match quality wasn't great, but if you're going back to one of the biggest feuds in wrestling, this is going to be mentioned as one of the biggest feuds in wrestling history. Look at what it did for the business back in the day. Would it have worked in wrestling and from the generation nowadays? Probably not. But if you're thinking, we got to look back on when wrestling was still evolving and still trying to become bigger than life and trying to get out to the world. This is one of the matches where people pay just to see this match for WrestleMania.
Yeah, I stand. Yeah, I agree, and I stand by my opening comments about this. I think it has to be on the list for a lot of reasons. It needs to be. This is too. I mean, this is. People remember this who are not even wrestling fans. Like this feud eclipsed the it broke outside to mainstream. Like I could probably leave right now and go walk to the mall, Fox's Mall over here, and just ask a stranger, "Hey, you remember the whole Hulk Hogan Andre the Giant thing?" And people would probably, not everybody, but a lot of people would be like, "Oh yeah, I know that was a thing." I mean, that in and of itself carries a lot of weight, and it shows just how significant uh, that rivalry was, and that specifically the match. But like the whole thing, like people still remember this.
Yeah, like when you think back to, like I said, if they had a video package of the greatest rivalries or moments ever, you're going to see Hulk Hogan and Andre in there. When he body slams at WrestleMania, all this stuff, like it's going to be involved in it. And I think this should be on the list too. I'm with Brian. It's for what it did for wrestling, and for what it did, it has to be on the list.
It's in the damn opening of every program.
The start.
Yeah, dude. And you know what? Kind of like what you guys say with Benoit too. You always think of the Hogan drama, and it's starting to kind of fade away with a lot of people. And I've saw it, he's been popping up more and more. I think it should be on there. As much as sometimes you think the match is a stinker. It's a classic.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm coming at this being the complete. I'm not a Hogan guy at all. Never was, and never will be. But I do recognize the significance of this match, and that's why I'm taking myself out of it. And it's like this is a historic match that everybody remembers to this day. So it's got.
Okay, so what about we got that one on there? What about Flair versus Dusty?
I think it has to be on there too.
Yeah, I do too. I think
Flair's that feud taught factions how to be factions. It gave you your who's the tag man, who's my up and coming rising star, even though they never did anything with them. And you put them all into those spots to help build up a babyface who has to defy the odds and fight against a pack of wolves, basically. And can you fend them all off? It's kind of like getting to the final boss in a video game or whatever stage you're at. Like, can Dusty get to Flair and finally beat him for the title?
Yeah. I'm not going to disagree. It gets my vote. I mean, there's not much else to add. I mean, yeah, you summed it up nicely. And again, historic. These are two of the all-time greats.
Yeah, I think this is on the list too. I mean, there's no way we have to have this on the list. I mean, I think this is probably Flair's best feud. Even though I think this has to be on the list. So what about? We got those two so far. What about Flair versus Steamboat? That was another mention. Flair versus Steamboat.
I think this is going to go with like the Macho Man thing. I don't want to disrespect Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, but Brian said some things earlier that made it make sense that it's good, and I absolutely love it. And if you're looking for the Dave Meltzer 5-star classic, I absolutely recommend you go back and watch the feud from 89 and 94. But I don't think it's not competing against these.
Yeah. For me, I maybe top 20, top 25, but I can't see in the top 10.
Rock versus Austin. What about Rock versus Austin?
I think it needs to be in.
Yeah, I did too.
Rock's got to get in on here no matter what. And my Rock Triple H was DQ'd, so I'm going to give the vote for Rock Austin.
All right. There we go. Thank you, Conrad.
Don't thank me. It may get hard now. Those were the easy ones where I was like, yeah.
All right. What about Kane versus Undertaker? We only got 3 spots left too, so let me just read through the rest, and then we'll cut. We'll narrow it down.
That's a good idea.
We'll narrow it down to 4. We'll go to 4. So we got Kane versus Taker, Sasha versus Bayley, HBK versus Jericho, Raven versus Dreamer, Flair versus Sting, Angle versus Lesnar, and Brett versus Owen. So
for me, my 4: Owen and Brett, Sasha and Bayley, Undertaker, Kane, Jericho, HBK.
Wait a minute. I missed completely what he was voting on here. I was in the midst of a talking segment with someone else. What?
Oh. Sorry. So these are my 4 picks of what we have.
Right, listen. Let me just go through it and we'll just vote. We'll have a 2-1 vote somehow. Right now we'll vote if we should keep it or not, if we should cut it or not. Now it's going to be on the list if we should keep it or not. All right.
Okay.
So
All
Kane
right.
versus Taker. Do we have to keep Kane versus Taker? I vote yes.
I say it goes.
You say it goes?
Yes, I love the storyline. I just don't know if the match quality was there enough to keep it going. I mean, does a rivalry have to be good? And I think it does towards the end. And some of their end work was kind of
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's got to stay. I do.
All right.
Put it to the side. Put it to the side.
It's staying. Sasha versus Bailey.
Yes.
Yes.
Sasha versus Bailey. Okay, stays. HBK versus Y2J.
Yes.
Yes.
Raven versus Dreamer.
Damn.
So for me, it comes down to this or Owen and Brett. And I'm
gonna say no to Raven and Dreamer. I'm gonna say no to that.
I say yes to Raven and Dreamer.
I gotta say no, brother. I gotta say no, Conrad. I'm sorry, man.
Raven and Dreamer is gone.
I'm sorry, man.
Flair
All you
versus
ECW fans out there, I apologize. Owen
Flair
and Brett
versus
to me.
Flair versus Sting. What about Flair versus Sting?
How many more spots do we have at this point now?
We got 3 spots. So we got Flair versus Sting.
I think it's a classic. I think it pays a lot. That is WCW, that feud.
Yeah, I think it has to stay in.
So that stays?
Yeah.
Okay, what about Kurt versus Lesnar?
I'm gonna say no.
No.
Brett versus Owen.
Yes.
Yes. I just think of that WrestleMania moment, dude. As a kid, I remember watching like, yes, Brett won, and then Owen
right,
came.
Well, look, we got 5, so one of these has to go. We got to cut one of them out. So Kane versus Undertaker, Sasha and Bailey, HBK versus Jericho, Flair versus Sting, Brett Owen. One of them's got to go.
Undertaker Kane goes, man.
For you, okay. What about you, Conrad? What do you say goes? I mean, not you, but Brian. What do you say goes? He said Undertaker Kane.
Okay, yeah. Kane and Undertaker, they can kick rocks. Sorry.
All right, Kane versus Taker's gone. So now we got 4. We got Sasha and Bailey, HBK versus Jericho, Flair versus Sting, and Brett versus Owen. And we have 3 spots. So one of these is gonna have to go.
Damn.
What about? Let's start with Brett versus Owen. Let's start from the bottom. Brett versus Owen.
Yo, you can't do this to me, man.
I'm voting for it to stay.
You picked it.
Yeah. This is a classic, man. This is a classic. It's a classic rivalry.
Man, this is hard. I don't know if you'll ever cut that.
Brother, this is biblical, homie. Brother against brother. Like Cain and Abel in a wrestling ring.
For me, I want to put one on the list. I think HBK and Sean should be on the list. I'm voting for that to be on the list.
What? HBK and who?
Jericho. HBK and Jericho.
Yeah, that's dude. I think it's really down right now to Ric Flair and Sting versus Brett and Owen. Right? I mean, what are our choices?
No,
Sasha, Jericho, and HBK, Flair versus Sting, and Brett versus Owen.
Flair versus Sting's gonna go then for me. Only one needs to go, right?
Yeah, only one.
I'm voting Flair versus Sting goes based on the same fact with Kane and Undertaker. WCW 2001, Ric Flair wrestling with a T-shirt on is pretty sad to think about as far as a feud goes. I mean, I loved it. Trust me, it was great in the 80s and everything else. And is it unfair to disqualify a match? But it's part of the feud or the rivalry to me.
Yeah, I'm also agreeing and saying that Ric Flair and Sting's got to go. It was a good feud for its time, like when it was at its height of this feud, and it definitely made Sting and kind of not made him, but it pushed him over the top. But looking at these other choices, I mean, this being let's say the 11th rivalry, I think is not a bad consolation prize. So yeah, for me, I'm voting for Flair and Sting to go fishing.
All right. Mark that out, man. So
Yo, man, I got jumped on a lot of these matches. I just want to state for the record too. So to anybody who's mad, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't me.
all right, so this is the list we got. We got a 10 list now. We have Austin versus McMahon, Brett versus HBK, CM Punk versus John Cena, Ciampa versus Gargano, Hogan versus Andre, Flair versus Dusty, Rock versus Austin, Sasha versus Bailey, HBK versus Jericho, and Brett versus Owen.
That's
not a bad list, yo.
That's a solid list.
That's not a bad list.
Minus the ECW and WCW guys who've been totally offended by this. I apologize, but too bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
my fault.
Do it better. Do it better for WWF, I guess. I mean, do it better for them. They dominated this list, though.
Who?
Yeah.
WWF. Like, out of all their companies that were under them, we had to use for this. And I'm just like, they killed it.
Yeah, they definitely killed the list.
But you know what's funny is that
give it 5 or 10 more years, it'll be all NXT.
Yeah. Or I mean, this was fun. This was great. I mean, you could do this again tomorrow with 2 other cats in the league and come up with a completely different top 10. You know what I mean? Like which is a testament to pro wrestling and how much we care about this thing that we love. But yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy with this. I'm happy that we got Ciampa and Gargano and Sasha and Bailey. So I'm gonna bask in this.
How do you feel, Conrad? You like the list?
My personal list would look a little bit different than this list, but due to the fact that we kind of all had to agree, I think that it's a solid list. If you had to put it up against anyone else's, like if What Culture did theirs, I'm like, well, this is just as good.
I think my list would be a little different too with my personal list. But I like the list though. I like it. These are all obviously all great feuds, great rivalries at one point that we all loved and were invested in. But I think my personal list will look a little different. Like I said, there's always like two matches, 2 things you have on here that you just wouldn't have on here if it was your personal list. You know what I mean? Like it's how it always ends up. Like, there's always something like 2 things or like 2 or 3 things that you like. I might switch that out for this one. But I mean, so it makes the debate so hard. Yeah, we all have to agree on the list. Everybody has to agree on it. So it makes it so difficult. But I'm all right with the list. We got Brett Owen, HBK versus Jericho, Sasha and Bailey, Rock versus Austin, Flair versus Dusty, Hogan and Andre, Ciampa and Gargano, CM Punk, John Cena, HBK versus Brett, and Austin and Vince. I'm all right with that. I'm all right with that. No problem.
Yeah, that's a hella good list. I mean, even if someone disagreed, this is not a list that like you could have an actual very cool debate like we did about why one of these should be removed and placed with something else.
I definitely think it depends. I think it depends on the generation you're from too. I mean, if it's I think it depends on the generation you're from and what time period of wrestling you grew up in, maybe, and where you're around. I feel like a lot of old heads definitely wouldn't have the Champion Gargano, Sasha and Bailey, none of those on here. Newer people,
old head. I like that.
But I'm talking about older, like 50.
Oh, my pops? Yeah.
The older heads, like, hey, where's no San Martino? No San Martino? What the hell?
I think some people might have been like, some people might have had Flair and Sting on here. You know what I mean? Some people might have had some other Ric Flair matches on here, some other Dusty Rhodes stuff on here too. So I mean, I think it depends on the gap of generation you're from in. I mean,
honestly, wrestling. This thing's been around since the turn of the century. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of history, a lot of matches, a lot of promotions, a lot of wrestling.
I think me personally, I think Austin and Vince is the best feud ever. That's just me. That's my favorite one. I think everything about that feud is just perfection. The way they did it and everything. Brett and HBK, there was some real animosity with that. So I mean, and they had great matches too. We told a great story. Had great matches. CM Punk and John Cena was really what kind of helped WWE back in 2011 time when the roster was not great, and everything was kind of just at a downfall, and that's what kind of brought it back up. CM Punk was kind of what helped fans kind of get back into it a little bit, like, you know what, this is my guy. You know, I like this guy. He's helping us out. You know what I mean? Especially for the people who didn't like John Cena. You know what I mean? So I think he helped a lot of people out right there. Ciampa and Gargano has been the best feud that's been going on for like the past 3 years, especially for NXT and the main roster. I mean, for people who don't watch NXT, if you don't, it's a problem. You need to go watch it. It's a problem because I know a couple people who don't watch NXT. They just watch strictly WWE stuff. So for people who don't know anything about Ciampa and Gargano, you have to go back. You have to go back and look at it, man. You have to go back and look at it. You have to go back and review everything about it, man. Hogan and Andre. I mean, despite what people think about Hulk Hogan, Hulk Hogan helped out wrestling tremendously. Let's be real. I mean, what he did for the business is just crazy. And this feud right here is just what basically made a WrestleMania at that time. I mean, they built a whole WrestleMania around this match. So I mean, to me, that had to be on. That's the reason it had to be on the list for like Cameron said. You know, when you see promo package and stuff like that, like little highlights that you see this, like it's always in there. And they don't ever have this not in there. It's always in there. So Flair versus Dusty. Obviously, this is a classic feud. Two of the best on the mic. I mean, God, the promos they used to do back in, you know, like backstage segments and NWA and stuff like that. Incredible stuff they did in the ring. So I think Flair told a story one time where they actually broke Dusty's leg when, you know, they had a cage match or something like that. They jumped him. I think Four Horsemen jumped him. And they actually broke his leg by accident. And fans were like trying to jump over the rail and get in the cage, and they were like stuck in like the arena for like an hour or something like that. Back in this is back when fans were like trying to stab wrestlers. You know what I mean? Wrestlers had real heat and they were trying to stab you. So I think he told that story once on a podcast or something like that. But I don't know if it was like televised or not. But he told that story when like they were in the ring and they couldn't escape the cage because fans were piling around the ring trying to get in the cage because they were trying to beat up the Four Horsemen. They were trying to kill the Four Horsemen. So that definitely had to make the list for me. Rock versus Austin. Some people might have Triple H versus The Rock over this, maybe. But I personally think it's
wrong.
The Rock. I think Rock and Austin was better than Triple H versus Rock. The things that they, like I said, 3 WrestleMania matches. Are they the only 2 people that have 3 WrestleMania matches, like important main event matches? I think there's only 2.
That's the biggest. I think we've seen a lot of 2-fers, but never a 3-fer.
Never 3, yeah.
I think Triple H and Undertaker, they had 3. Never mind, they had 3 matches. So I mean, but they were never like the main event. These were like the main event.
I was gonna say not the main event.
So this had to make the list for me. Sasha and Bayley, best women's feud in NXT, and the matches that they put on NXT were incredible.
I will stand and say that is the best women's match in this company to date.
Yeah, the one at Brooklyn. Talking about the one at Brooklyn.
Oh yeah, I know a lot of people will say, there was a recent one this year that everybody was saying was the best one. I don't know if it was Becky and Charlotte or
what, at Evolution?
Yeah.
Evolution, the last thing.
Yeah, a lot of people said that was the best one. I still think it's Sasha and Bayley NXT.
Yeah,
I still think it's Sasha. So I mean, obviously Becky and Charlotte, incredible. I mean, we all knew what that was going to be. If you watched it, it was like, oh, this is going to be the best match on the card. But I mean, that Sasha and Bayley one, man, was just, I think it's so special because it was at a time when women's wrestling was still evolving into what it is now. So it was like, you really, that match had high expectation and it lived beyond expectation. I mean, that match is just absolutely spectacular. And the fans, like you said, the emotion of the fans were so invested into this, like, especially after when Bayley won. And Brian, you said he dropped a tear after this match. Come on, man. He dropped a tear after that match.
I did. And that match didn't, not to take anything away from Charlotte and Becky's last woman standing match, or last man standing, whatever they want to call it. But Sasha and Bayley didn't have, they didn't rely on weapons and objects and all that kind of stuff. They just wrestled. They got in there and they just told a wrestling story. And it was beautiful.
So we have Sasha and Bayley. Then we have HBK versus Y2J. Great stuff that they did too. Like I said, my grandma absolutely hates Chris Jericho. The 2 wrestlers that my grandma cannot stand is Chris Jericho and Randy Orton. She will not root for any of those 2. She hates both of those guys. If they're ever on the TV screen, she's flipping them off. She's throwing stuff at it. Like, these guys on my TV screen. I hate these 2. She absolutely hates. She hates Viper Randy Orton, and she hates Suit Chris Jericho. So she can't stand those 2. HBK and Jericho was a great feud. And then we had Brett versus Owen. That was a late one. I'm not gonna lie. That wouldn't even be on here if he never mentioned it because I forgot all about that one. So kudos to Brian for throwing that out there because that was a late one. That was a late mention. That was
Sorry for that curveball. Honestly, it just popped into my head when we were talking about it. So
Yeah. I mean, I knew I wanted to put Brett on here, and I thought about putting Brett versus Austin. I was like, oh, maybe Brett and Austin, but then obviously you had Brett versus Sean, so I was like, Brett versus Sean has to be on here. Then I thought about Brett versus Austin. I was like, I don't know about Brett versus Austin, but then you said Brett Owen. Like, oh man, that's kind of sold me on that one. So definitely had to kudos to Brian for that one. But the list of 10 is complete. I appreciate you guys for joining me, being on here. I like the list that we got. I'm cool with the list. Like I said, my personal list will be a little bit different, but that's what makes the feuds. And you don't always get what you want. Like I said, Conrad, he had a lot of his stuff cut out here today, so he had a lot of stuff that he mentioned cut out. So can't always get what you want, but that's what makes this debate so. That's what makes the debate so real and so hard. Yeah, I like to bring the list, but I want to tell everybody watching, I am gonna do another debate next week. I'm doing top 10 greatest NXT matches, which is gonna be it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a fireball right there. Top 10 greatest.
That is a tough one.
Not feuds. Top 10 greatest NXT matches. So the takeover, NXT takeover matches, and I'm doing that next Saturday, same time, 4 p.m. I'm gonna let these guys throw out their channels, throw out their stuff they're doing. We'll start with Conrad, and then we'll go on to Brian.
Yes, my name is Conrad Cushman. I'm the host of Everything Pro Wrestling. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. You guys can type in Everything Pro Wrestling on YouTube and subscribe to my channel. Like I said, I am now over 300 subscribers. Check it out. I appreciate everybody having me on their shows. Special shout out to Malik for everything. And I'm also on several podcasts, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Podbean now. We're trying to do big things out here. Hopefully you guys are liking the content that we are all producing. And I like that the wrestling community is uniting and working with each other on a lot of this stuff, and try out somebody who isn't big time in pro wrestling talking about it. It's interesting to hear someone else's perspective instead of hearing about like Meltzer or someone else. Just throwing that out there. And I want to give a shout out to everybody who watched this, and rest in peace to Luke Perry, King Kong Bundy, and Dick the Destroyer, who all passed away this week. Just crazy how many people.
Yeah, I was hurt by Luke Perry, dude. That hurt my soul, man.
Yeah, his son's wrestling in the AEW, so I felt real bad for like his kid.
Yeah, I was hurt by Luke Perry, man, because he's on my favorite show right now, Riverdale. So I was like, oh, that's dumb. That's dumb. Well, go ahead, Brian. Tell everybody what you do and where they can find you. So.
Yeah, I really don't have this shit to promote. I just want to say thank you, Malik, for having me on your show. This was more fun than I thought it was going to be. And Conrad, my man, it's always good to talk and see you, chat wrestling. And everybody out there, support these guys. These guys are doing some really cool stuff out here. And it's my honor to be on to have been on both of you guys' programs. So that's really it. I mean, I'm on Twitter at TrueBWill, TruBWill. And that's really it. I mean, I do a podcast with my buddy, Graham, the Bombcast, but it's not wrestling related. It's more life related. It's a lifestyle podcast of bullshit. But if you follow my Twitter, you might be able to, when we post new episodes, you can find them there. And that's really it. Just want to say thanks to both of y'all. And yeah, man, this was good. This was fun. This was a fun way to spend my my Saturday afternoon.
So I got a lot of stuff coming up from my channel. I'm working on a lot of skits. I'm working on a lot of debates that I have written down, a lot more stuff. I'm gonna be doing, like I said, top 10 NXT takeover matches next week. But then I'm gonna swerve because I'm gonna start talking about I'm gonna do other debates, but not wrestling related. So maybe basketball, football related, or maybe Disney related too. Because I do a lot of Disney stuff. I'm doing a lot of debates for that one. So make sure you look out for those. I'm gonna be planning those for the future. You can also check out my podcast on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Spotify, 24/7 Wrestling Podcast that I put up a show last night. I will be having more episodes coming out this week. But make sure you guys go follow their stuff. Conrad's stuff, he's got some good stuff coming out. He got a bunch of good stuff he does on a wrestling channel. A bunch of great stuff. But make sure you guys tune in next week, 4 p.m. Another debate next week. And I appreciate you guys for joining me, guys.